Once upon a time, two men decided if they were making the cut. Then they made the cut. And now JT and Aaron are talking everything from wrestling to pop culture and beyond, because it's no holds barred.
Will you back down, turn and run, or stand up with the best? When you're back to the wall, what will your answer be? Will you run for the door? Will you run out on me like it's hard?
It's no holds barred.
Visual. That's what I'm gonna call it.
We've never got to do that together.
No, you're right. I mean, we could have. You just didn't want to.
No, I wanted to. You just never cued me in. You excluded me.
You could have just jumped
purposefully.
in.
I don't jump. I don't jump. I don't want people don't like me. So like I don't
do any tricks.
Presence.
I just jump.
Yeah. So from the back of a darkened car as I was driving home from basketball the other night, my 7-year-old said this to me, and I'm wondering if you think I should be worried. He said, "Can I sell body parts on the internet like on the dark web?"
I mean, I don't think you should be worried per se just yet, because I don't think he probably has the means and ability to take a body part to put on the dark web at this time.
Right.
So you're probably fine.
He did assure me, he said, well, look, not my body parts.
Right. It was,
and I'm like,
clearly...
just don't take any body parts. We don't need this in our lives.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, there's really no point. But there may be someday where he's destitute and needs the money.
I guess. I mean, you got 2 kidneys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need both to process all liquids.
No, because people give them up all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Like they're nothing. They're like they're fucking pennies. They're throwing them in the street.
Every day. So listen, this is our first No Holds Barred visual.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I think fuck. I think it was good that we did a podcast together earlier this year when you visited.
Yes.
Because I feel like it prepared me to see the stupid faces you make as we record.
Oh, it's all scorn and derision you're going to see. Like 100% of the time.
Yeah. So listen, I'm not used to this. So if you see me doze off or close my eyes or look this way because it's the fantasy football playoffs, we decided to do a video podcast anyway. That's all that's going on. Okay. But we're here. I think it's a fitting final one to do because we're here to wrap up our GWWE project for 2022. We committed at the beginning of the year, if you recall, to do this every month. We did 10 a month. And now we're going to do our final. Why are you doing those eyes?
It's because you commented on the faces, so I figured
hungry eyes.
One look at you and I can't disguise.
Hungry eyes. So we did this first in 2017. We did a list of the greatest dirty competitor ever. So look, there might be some new viewers. Yeah, we can say viewers now to this. So we should just recap on the PlaceToBeNation.com. For the last 5 years, we've done a stretch project that lasts the whole year. And in 2017 was the first one. So we did the greatest dirty wrestler ever. Everyone has to submit a list of 100.
Yeah, we gave 120 entries. Like it was really a lot.
It was more than that even, I think. Yeah, we had a lot. We had a Rubik's Cube, is that what it's called? That said what you should follow. Yeah, rubric. Stanley. So we had a rubric that you follow. You didn't have to follow, but we recommended the following, right? It's the NJPW system. So N stood for nuance, which you have none of because you're staring at the ground as I'm talking to you. So that would be like, I don't know. Is that like face heel type stuff? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. J is jump up. So that's like big moments, exciting things that happen. P would be promo skills.
Promos. Characters.
Promos. Yep. And W?
And W was work, which I heavily leaned on last time.
Yes, you did. All right, so what we've done now is we're doing a 5-year look back. We thought it was a good time to go back and resubmit those lists. A lot probably has changed, some hasn't. You've had more years to kind of research. There have been guys that have dropped, right? Because we've, even current guys, maybe that we thought were on a trajectory that maybe we ranked at the time thinking they were going to potentially grow, and maybe they actually regressed. And then there are folks that have had a great last 5 years, and then there's others that may be older that we removed because we have just watched other matches and done additional research, and maybe they dropped or rose. So in January, we kind of threw together an initial cut of a redone list, right? We did it in December, recorded in January. We've spent all year going through that list on this show once a month and
10 at a
discussing
time.
all the different entries. And that has led us to now on the doorstep of submitting this list. We are going to reveal, this is the list we're going to type into the form for the final submission. So this is kind of factoring in 5 years
this is the actual
discussion
list.
and this year. Yeah.
So this is the actual list that you and you're going to hand in your list. I'm going to hand in mine. And this is our final thing. After today, no changing.
This is, yeah, I plan on doing it like tomorrow, unless you really convince me otherwise or something.
Wow. Can I ever really convince you of anything?
Well, you'll see some movement on this list, probably based on your influence.
Oh, and I think likewise as well. I think we have a solid influence on one another.
Okay. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to go one by one, starting at 100. We are going to say the wrestler ranked at that point, where they ranked in 2022, where they ranked in 2017, to do a comparison.
Yeah,
at
I'm
the
not
end,
in 2022.
Yeah, and at the end, we will reveal all the cuts from 2017 who didn't end up making the lists that did last. I think we should do it at the end,
For
right?
sure.
Or do you want to do it in the beginning? What do you think?
I think it's actually probably better at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess
because then like we get it out of the way. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And I think we can probably just list off the guys that like who were there in 2017 that just,
right.
It doesn't have to be a long thing or anything. Did you have a lot, by the way, that dropped from 2017?
I had 12.
See, I had 16.
Yeah, all right. That's a lot. Yeah.
Maybe my list was just shit.
No, I think you you even mentioned it earlier, right? Like you changed the way you viewed it. You leaned a lot on work rate, right? You saw, where's the match? Tell me the match. Show me the match. And now it's a little bit less of that, right? I think you've evolved your thinking a little bit as you've watched different stuff. I mean, since then, you did the year that was, you did the wrestler that was, like, so you've watched a ton of stuff that maybe you hadn't really dove into the first time. And I think it has changed your view of what you prefer to see in a pro wrestler. So I think it makes sense.
I also feel with this one, I feel much less influenced by others on this one. I think in the last one, like, you get swept up in listening to all the podcasts and all the stuff that's going on. And so as a consequence, your list kind of ends up being similar to everybody else's. And, like, it's funny because we're doing this podcast. To me, it's just an opportunity to talk about like my favorite guys and see where they go. Like, and if it convinces someone, great, but we're not really setting out to do that. I don't think. It's more, this is just who we like, what it is. And with this list too, I think I was able to, I got rid of the people that like didn't matter to me. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think I did some of that. A couple I got bullied out of by you. So I took them out.
Happy.
And we've talked about it, right? Like when we did this list in 2017 on the Place to Be podcast, Scott and I had just started the reboot era, right? So we were heavily in 85, 86, 87 when I was doing that list. So you can see that influence, and half the guys almost that I dropped are from that era that I was probably a little hot on because I was watching a bunch of them in the moment. But then when you really think about their trajectory, yeah, I don't know if I would lean on work rate too as much, but I did think I leaned on just reputation as a worker, if that makes sense, right? Like my first one I dropped was number 45 last time. It was Terry Funk. I had Terry Funk at 45 last time.
Oh, wow.
So I think a lot of that was based on reputation. It's Terry Funk. Like, of course, he's awesome. But I probably didn't explore enough of his moments, some of the nuance within the construct of Dirty Afro. Like, he didn't really have a lot of like deep face or heel runs. He didn't really have a lot of in the way of feuds. So he's not on my list this time. I think he's probably at least conversational guy, right? Like he did have a really hot run. It's a short in 85, 86. And then the cactus stuff too.
Yeah, he comes back. Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's outlandish to have him on a list. I think 45 might have been a bit high, and I think you obviously agree. But yeah. No. And I think too, a lot of times something hits with you at that right moment. And because it hits with you then, it just stays special, right? Like some of the people I'm going to bring up on my list, we didn't even talk about. But then I'll think back and I'm like, you know what? This moment was really important for me. And that's why they're at 96 or whatever. Because, you know, that bottom 10 almost becomes a free-for-all of just people you want to include.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you'll see a mix of that. There's one guy cut that really hurt. But I just felt like he, probably shouldn't be there. So who was your biggest dropper? So Funk for me dropped ostensibly 55 spots because he's off the list from 45. So did you have anyone that dropped that much?
Yeah, I had a guy who was around the 50s. I think he was actually number 50 I had last time. And that's JBL. He went right off my list.
Okay. How come?
Well, I mean, lots of reasons why he's off. I think the biggest one is that I just don't enjoy his matches at all. And I feel his impact is not substantial enough to like make a huge difference. And that title run for me ends up being kind of the nadir of my fandom in some respects. Like I never want to watch a JBL title run again. And I find it was just diminishing returns after that. Not that he's garbage or anything, but just for me personally, doesn't crack it.
Well, you had him really high for sure. For me, he was lower. I dropped him a bit more. He's still on my list. I just rewatched 0405 for WWE War with Marcus, and I thought his work held up fine. So, I think his promo ability and his moments keep him afloat. The long title reign, and honestly, I ended up, PTB. We're watching his 0809, and like he's actually a little bit better than I thought. One thing I'll say that I never thought I would say about him is he's kind of selfless. He like I know it's crazy.
Not in the shower.
He's a giver. In the ring, he is it SummerSlam or there's one show in there where he just like completely jobs to Batista, and like it's like a 3-minute squash. He just gets wrecked. Then he does the same for Ray in his last match at Mania. I think there's one match where Cena beats him pretty soundly. So he definitely gave back a lot in that run. He's got the match with Finley. So I think that 0809 is actually a little bit overlooked with him. Plus, you get the whole APA run, which, I mean, there's just a ton of big moments during that. They're a main event level team in 2000 into 01. Like, he's a big part of that. Plus, I like the Hawk. Like, he's one of Chad and I's kind of low-key favorites on Warzone in 96. So he's got some pretty good little matches here and there. So
I like Justin Hawk Bradshaw. I always thought that was fun, and I thought he was good in the role. And I like the APA also, and I even liked him as just plain old Bradshaw. I think it's the JBL character for me that just doesn't click.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So my next biggest dropper was the Iron Sheik. I had him at 60, and I ended up dropping him from the list.
Whoa, he rose for me.
Wait, hang on. Let me confirm that.
It's funny you mentioned that, and it's funny you mentioned.
No, I lied. He's on my list. So there's someone else I'm missing.
Here, I'm gonna
also on my list.
While you're looking at that, I'm gonna name off a bunch of guys. Okay, that dropped from my list. So because otherwise we'll be here all night with them. Okay, so off my list.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say we have a lot to get through, and we should probably.
What the hell else did I drop? Oh, I found him. Okay,
there you go. So look, JBL, The Miz, William Regal, Pat Patterson, Booker T, Bam Bam Bigelow, the Road Dog, who probably should have never been on there to begin with, Rikishi, Ivan Koloff, both Dudley Boys, Jimmy Uso, the Revival Guys, and Larry Zbyszko.
Okay. So we have some overlap for sure. So I mentioned Terry Funk. Sheik is on safely. He did not move much at all, actually. Umaga was at 77. He's gone.
Oh, bumped him out, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, honestly, I thought he had, like, really had a substantial body of work, but rewatching some of the, like, he drops off a lot quicker than you may think.
That's 2 years, right? Really?
Yeah,
It's
it's
2
not a
years,
ton
and
there. Yeah,
then Jamal.
right. He does have the all-time classic, which helps, and he's got the Trump match, but you could argue he's
Yeah.
like the last piece of that, right? It's like really Vince,
It
Trump,
could be anybody.
Batista, and whoever, right? Not to take away from him, but I mean, I think anyone could have worked.
Yeah.
The Miz, I had at 78, so I also dropped him. I think it's just too much bad. Like, I like the guy. I'm not a Miz hater. I like that he's had this career after a guy that had no right to have this career. I'm happy that he married Maurice, and it seems happy. He's got the reality show.
Yep.
I just think he has too many bland stretches in there to really be considered top 100. I probably wouldn't have him too far off 100. Harley Race, I had at 79. He's gone.
No, he's probably like 105.
Miz, yeah. So Harley's kind of in that funk bucket. Jacques Rougeau, I had at 81. I dropped him out. Pedro Morales was the guy I just found that I had missed before. I had him at 83. He's gone. The most contentious entry in my list from last time, Marty Jannetty at 87. I removed him from the list.
That birthed our show.
I know it did. It did. It was the first episode that we did. It was making the cut, Marty Jannetty.
We were arguing online. We're like, fuck it, let's talk.
Let's do it. Shelton Benjamin, I dropped him from 88 off the list, which I felt bad about. I know of all these guys, I think he's the one that maybe I feel the worst about. Rikishi dropped off as well for me from 94. Dropped off Yokozuna from 97. Again, he probably wouldn't drop far from me, but it's just some of the matches just aren't there. John Morrison, I had a 98. I dropped him off, and honestly, his comeback run is kind of what led me to reassess a little bit. I always liked Morrison. I've always been a fan of his, but that comeback run was just not good at all. It was super disappointing, especially given the volume of TV hours that exist now and like all the chances he had additionally to just come out and not do much was disappointing. And then the one that really hurt me was to get rid of Ken Shamrock from 100. So he was my last time.
Oh,
I know.
Okay. Well, that's not too bad. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in there that's like egregious, like my Pat Patterson drop, but
right. Yeah, Patterson is an interesting one, but
I've tried and I've watched a lot. See, I'm the opposite of you. Like as you were doing it in 2017, you were watching those house shows, right? You're watching the MSGs. For this one, that's where I was. I was in the thick of those, and I watched a ton of Pat Patterson. I rewatched the boot camp, rewatched not the boot camp, the street fight. I rewatched
alley fight,
a lot of his. That's the alley fight. I rewatched a lot of his Intercontinental run. I watched his heel work. I watched his face work, and I just don't get it.
We could talk about him, I guess. Well, I mean, so here's the thing. Like, this is going to be very much like a list read going forward here because we've talked about all these guys in depth. So if you want to go back and revisit on northsouthconnection.com, like our history of the every month, it may not be there yet in the backlog, but it's at least at northsouthconnection.podbean.com if you subscribe. If you just go back monthly on No Holds Barred, we've talked about all these guys like in depth. We did 10 episodes. Or 11 episodes, just breaking down all these wrestlers. So we're not going to like dive into the case again. I think we'll just kind of talk about them. But yeah,
I think if someone pops up that we didn't talk about, maybe just quickly, tell us why you put them on the list. But aside from that, no, because again, like we hear on that. I will mention that there was a bit of contention on my list, at least from our when we're talking about it throughout the year, is ultimately I dumped the NXT trio of Gargano, Cole, and Ciampa right off the list. We had talked in depth about where they go and why and how, and I had Gargano at like 28 or something, and I had Cole not too far behind and Ciampa not too far behind him. But then I just kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking, like, I don't want to ever watch their matches again.
Right.
And because of that, I was like, fuck it. Why are they on my list?
Yeah, so I didn't have any of them on my list last time. And then at the beginning of the year, you were kind of hot on them. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe I should assess all these guys. So I had like O'Reilly, Strong, Samoa Joe, Balor, Walter, Dunn, Andrade. Like all these guys were like in my let me think about. And as we kept talking and you were changing your mind, I was like, well, that's kind of where I was. To begin with, I'm not saying I don't want to ever watch their matches again. I just don't know if the impact is there for me. Like, and I think this is why we debated it heavily last time was like, how do you weight NXT? Like, I know it's even, I guess, but not really. Like, there's a lot of just different. Like, it's just different presentation. I think you can factor in the big takeovers, but the weekly TV to me isn't as like impactful. So I do have a couple of those guys on here, but they're toward the back. The rest of them didn't make the cut. Like, I don't have Gargano on, don't have Walter on, don't have Dunn, don't have O'Reilly, don't have Strong, and all of them have like multiple, probably 5-star, 4.5 to 5-star matches.
Yeah.
I mean, we know Walter has a couple, right? So it's like, I mean, he's probably the one maybe closest to getting back on. You know, I think we'd have to see if this IC run and rebuild continues. He gets the Mania match of Brock, and that delivers. You know, in 5 years, if he does this again, he's a guy that may jump way up, right? If they continue to push him, I think just at this point that hadn't been a thing. So, all right, so why don't we get back to it and dive right in? So my number 100 this time is the no good, dirty Bill Goldberg.
Oh.
I had him at 95 5 years ago, so he's dropped 5 spots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's had some matches since, right? And nothing really popping in those matches, right?
So him almost murdering the Undertaker is only worth 5 spots for you.
Well, I mean, 6 would be the most. He'd be off the list.
Well, he could be 150. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I honestly, my honorable mentions are just kind of jumbled lists. I didn't really rank below that in order.
Right.
I just still like his initial run, and I'm just such a big fan of that WrestleMania 33 match with Lesnar. I like the squash at Survivor Series the year before as well. Like, it's a big deal. So I do like his work. I think he's a big enough star to belong there. You know, the argument would be Shamrock, but actually the guy above I have at 99 is more in peril for me to fall off for Shamrock.
Right.
Goldberg is. We'll talk about him in a minute, but
it's so funny how that works, because like it's like you got your 100, and then I like my 100. So I cut a bunch of guys, I added guys. My 100 was always the same right. 100 as last time, and that's Santino Marella.
Yeah,
and like just because I think he's the best comedy guy ever, I explained it at length. But like there was no way he's not making that list.
Right.
Like I cut off.
But you can't justify having him higher.
No, but he's my number. Well, maybe I'd go a bit higher depending on who's coming up. But yeah, like nobody. He will never come off this list, even if I have to cut someone who I think is better than him.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right. My 99 is the guy who I think I could cut if I wanted to for Shamrock, and I may still. I didn't submit the list yet. That's you got to be Kane.
Oh, you're gonna cut Kane?
I had him at 96. Fuck. I mean, the more I watch him, the more like bored I am. But I think the problem is I'm not really watching his early stuff on anything right now. And that's his best stuff, I think. Like, as far as a character and engagement, his matches may get better later. But when I see him,
do they?
I don't know. Watching it for like PTB in 08, in 09, I like groan when he comes out. We're in 14-15 for War. 15-16.
That's the worst.
He's on he ruins everything. The stupid corporate Kane. Everyone shits on Rollins. I think like Kane being an albatross for him did not help him at all during that run. Like, he's dragging down every friggin' match.
Yeah.
And then just lump in all this bullshit now. The fucking mayor stuff. Like, I'm all set.
The rape of the dead girl.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, which sucks because he is the only reason he's still even on here is because of the impact he had early on and like what that all meant and how great that debut was and his initial feud with Undertaker. Like, and he does have some a lot of good moments and some matches. So it's like, he's Kane. He probably is in the top 100. You also get Isaac Yankem. So that's
and Fake Diesel and Fake Diesel.
Yeah. So I don't know. There may be a minute when I go to submit that list, whenever it is in the next week, that I just say fuck it, I put Ken Shamrock in at 99 over him.
No one's gonna lose any sleep over Kane not being there. My 99 is someone we didn't talk about. And I feel the more I thought about it, the more I had to put him on. And that's Zack Ryder. I thought, this guy's got some major influence. I think he really changed the business in a lot of ways. That he was really maybe they would have gotten there anyway. They probably would have gotten there anyway.
Right.
But I feel he's really the canary in the coal mine for all the internet stuff.
Yeah.
The YouTube show. It was such a big deal. And on top of all that, there's like a 6 or 8 month stretch where he's legitimately one of the most over guys in the company.
Yeah.
So when he wins that US title from Ziggler, it's huge. And then they immediately bury him. Kane, oddly enough, Kane destroys him.
Again.
Yeah. Well, Cena fucks his girlfriend and then Kane murders
him.
I'm
thinking the second time he won, when he wins the WrestleMania 32 match. But yeah, the first time.
That too.
Yeah, Cena and Kane just completely wreck him.
It's like they saw him getting over on his own and like, we want you to grab the brass ring. And then like, no, fuck it. He actually grabbed it. Get him out of here. So yeah, that's why I have him there. I think he's an okay wrestler, decent promo, I guess, but it's for the influence and it's for that short little window.
Yep. All right. So, my 98 is the guy who's 99. So he just moved up. I'm sorry. He moved up 1 this time, and that is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Ho.
All right. My 98 is someone we didn't talk about again. And I think there's a legitimate reason to have her on a list. And that is Sable.
Roar.
I just think that there's a period, again, remember I kind of mentioned off the top, these little windows. I'd say for like a good year, she's like the number 2 face in the company. Yeah. And it's during the hottest time. So, and it's not like she was a passenger. Like she was carrying her own storylines. There was interesting stuff going on. She broke the mold for divas, started the Playboy stuff, which became a huge thing for the company. And then when she had to have matches, at least at first in the mixed tags, kind of over delivered.
Yeah,
on a lot of those. And look, her women's title run was what it was. I didn't mind the heel character. I thought it was a decent shift for her. So it's kind of lightning in a bottle, but but for the time that lightning like was in the sky, it was important lightning. And I got to stop talking about lightning
and thunder. I think it was. I think it's a fine choice. I don't have her on my list. I didn't really consider her, but it's hard to argue, right? Top, like you said, maybe top 3 or 4 hottest star during the biggest period in history. Like, what would the comp be in like the rock and wrestling era?
Beefcake.
I was thinking a little bit earlier, like the real boom, like 85, 86. Who's like the? There's no real female that. You could say like Wendy Richter, but she wasn't really around.
No, yeah, and it wasn't the same. Like Sable had this like raw energy, right?
Snuka, he was kind of fading by that point.
JYD.
Yeah, JYD maybe.
Yeah.
All right, my 97 dropped quite a bit, dropped 22 spots.
Oh shit.
I had him at 75, but again, he was a victim of circumstance. He was Bill Eadie, Axe. So I had him kind of high. He's the only member of Demolition to make my list of all 3, only because he also has the Machines and the Mass Superstar stuff on top of it. He's a pretty big star as Mass Superstar. Demolition was huge, the biggest tag team again during like one of the hottest stretches. Main event level, you could argue, were they the first of the modern rock and wrestling era, like the first main event level tag team that they had?
Yeah. I think you had like Backlund and who the fuck did I remember he teamed with
but I don't mean like superpowers coming together. I mean like legit team.
Yeah.
Like they're a tag team, they're not 2 champions teaming. They're just like a tag team, and they build themselves all the way to main event level. Like we'd have a bunch later, like Edge and Christian and the Hardys and the Dudleys and those guys, like right where they'd be in the matches with The Rock and Triple H and shit. But Demolition really kind of the first. I felt like that really fell at that Hogan level. Like,
oh yeah,
Like
when they come out, it's so funny at that Survivor Series. It's Demolition, Jake, and Hogan, and I feel like Hogan gets the smallest pop of any of them.
Yeah, Demolition in that WrestleMania 5 to WrestleMania 6. They may be the most over tag team in company history. Like that one year, I don't know who out-popped them ever in Dirty F.
Maybe the Outlaws. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
But even then, it wasn't the same. Like Outlaws weren't universally loved, and Outlaws had the. I say it's a crutch, but it was brilliant in a lot of ways. They had the crutch of that intro.
And DX. Are they as over if they're not with DX in the name? Like,
no.
I mean, they were getting over before that, but and Demolition got over on their own. They forced a face turn. They weren't buddies with Hogan and got over because of that. I mean, they were just on their own out there. I mean, those pops at WrestleMania 5, WrestleMania 6, so like
huge.
2 of the biggest ever.
That's the competent stewardship of Master Fuji, I believe you're referring to.
Probably not. So anyway, I think Edie deserves to be on here. I don't have Darso. I mean, I liked Smash better as a kid, but I think as the more you watch those matches, Axe is the guy guiding it.
Yeah.
Plus Darso also it's got the Repo Man shit in there. And like I said, Edie has the machines, which was a big time angle.
Yep.
And the Mass Superstar stuff.
And the better face paint. I always liked the Axe face paint. The silver. I don't know why. I just love it.
I think as a kid, I liked Smash better because Axe just looked old to me. So I felt like he was like an old man.
Well, yeah, but Smash was the energy. Yeah, we're gonna go get him. And Axe was more like, all right, listen. He was very methodical and to the point.
Yeah.
My 97, we kind of talked about her, but the more I thought, the more the list can't exist without her, and that's China.
Yeah. Yep. No. So my saving, I have her, but you want me to wait till I get there? The way we're doing.
Yeah, sure. I've been doing that with your guys too. So
okay, all right. China. All right. My 96 is someone who wasn't on my list last time.
Ooh.
And I really liked him watching all the PTB stuff of like 85, 86, 87. I actually think he's underrated, and that's the Mighty Hercules. I really like plus Power and Glory is like one of my favorite tag teams.
Yep.
I think he's actually a pretty good heel. I think it's his face run that's kind of bland because I just don't think he's that great at selling. But his offense is kind of underrated as a heel. Like he actually does a good job.
His punches are awesome.
Yeah.
Great
He's got some good matches with Billy Jack Haynes, like at house shows and stuff that like you wouldn't. I mean, WrestleMania 3 is fine, but their better stuff was actually in the house shows. His match with Hogan on Science Main Event, I like.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, he's just got some. I don't know. Whenever he'd pop up, I'd dig at him. And all those house shows, he had like a bunch of those longer house show matches.
Yeah.
I mean, by the end, he's kind of bloated and tired, but he also has the insanity with Sid at that MSG in early '92, where he just like gets mad and no sells everything and is like a wicked asshole. So I don't know. This was like a vanity pick guy, but the more I watch him, like this dude is good. He was a worker.
It's a vanity list, my friend. That's all you need to think of. So I'm watching WCW 1991-92, and the Super Invader comes out. I think I told you this, but I was like, I didn't want to look up who it was. I'm like, I wonder if I can tell who it is just by how he moves and wrestles.
Oh yeah.
And within 2 seconds, it's Hercules.
Yep.
It didn't even just his punches and the way he shuffled, like perfect. Yep. He's not on mine, but I mean, I think part of the problem is I kind of stopped the MSGs around 86.
Right.
And so I think if I watched more, he'd probably sneak out. My 96 is someone who I thought didn't make my list last time. I thought this was a person I'd never include on my list, but then I figured the more I thought about it, the more he should be there. And that's Shane McMahon.
Ooh, here comes the money.
Money, 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 money.
Money, 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 money. Dollar, dollar.
Ching, ching, bling, bling.
All right, so why is he on?
Too many good matches. I think I pretty much hate everything 2016 from that return on. I really dislike almost all of it. The greatest wrestler in the world bullshit, the fight with the Miz. All of that was just. I mean, I was recently watching the 2022 Royal Rumble and I forgot he was in it, and that was the whole. And
wasn't that his last stand? Like, isn't that when he got fired after that?
Yeah, and he came out. I was like, "Holy shit!" And then he's throwing out like legitimate wrestlers.
Oh yeah, that was like the last straw. Because it's funny because I feel like Shane was always the fan favorite of the McMahons. Like everyone was excited when he would show up, and Shane's gonna run the company someday, and he gets it. And then that last run really like soured everyone on him between the best of the world stuff and that. I was like, all right, this guy went up the fucking deep end. He's like becoming his dad.
It soured his father on him.
Right. Yeah, even Vince was like, "Oh, this sucks."
That's enough. But I will say that his initial run, I would say from 99 to at least 2002, is really good. Like whenever he shows up, he's in good to great matches.
Yeah.
I think the match with Kurt Angle's an all-timer at King of the Ring. He's a decent character on the show. I like when he ends up representing like Benoit and that little faction. So I think he's got enough good to make it, but for me, he doesn't get higher than 96.
I think he's a low-key shitty promo. I think he's the
Shitty
worst promo.
Oh yeah, he's not good. He's no good.
I mean, if you take Linda out of the mix, I mean, Linda is barely on. So if you just have a Vince, Shane, and Stephanie, like to me, he's easily the worst talker. I think he's probably the worst character.
What is his character? He's just a rich asshole.
Guy that wears baseball shirts
and dances.
Yeah. So I mean, he's got great matches. He's got great moments. Like WrestleMania 17 is awesome. So yeah, I was always a Shane fan. I think if he never came back. The Taker match is a bad one. I mean, that really drags things down.
So and it kills that show. That show is like, it's not horrible until then. And that hits, and then everything after is garbage.
Yeah, I think if he never comes back, whenever it is that he left to go do sneakers in China and all that, like if he just, whatever it was he was doing, if he just never comes back, I think maybe he's got a better case. I just think this last run, or if he leaves after Roman destroys his brain with that spear.
Oh, Orton has to console his children.
Yeah, it was bad. Like that should have been it. If that's it, maybe we're okay. But even that would still include the cell. So,
all
right, my 95 is, I think it's the biggest drop of anyone who is still on the list.
All right.
It's William Regal. So I had him at 46 last time.
Yeah.
And he's at 95 this time. I think this is one where you definitely influenced me, like to really think about what he brings to the table. And I think he's one of the ones like a Harley, like a Funk, where I really based it on, well, you just know he's a good worker, right? Like a reputation.
Yeah.
And then when you really start to break down the moments and just, you start to really think like every time he was about to really get going, he'd get derailed.
Yep.
So it's like, what was it? Right.
Yeah. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's in the end, for me, the list has to be about what you accomplished, not what your potential is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what I was trying to say before. I think in 17, I think I relied too much on that potential. Like, or not even just knowing, like, you could see it littered throughout my list at that point, right? Like all those guys that were high that we've argued about, right? Like a Valentine, Martel, like all those guys, like you just know are good workers.
Yeah.
But where's the resume and construct to this list?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he's off my list. Like he's probably in the next 10, I would say. Right. I love William Regal, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my 95 and 94 back to back because they're on for similar reasons that you're going to hate. 95 is Gorilla Monsoon. 94 is Jesse Ventura.
I don't hate it. I mean, I started this trend with managers.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had this argument how I feel like managers are different than announcers, but I think in 17 we would have banned you from doing this, but we kind of opened it up a bit more now. But
yeah, I just Jesse was never a great wrestler, at least in terms of the matches I've seen, but I didn't hate him either. He was fine, decent character in ring. Gorilla too, I enjoyed the matches I've seen, but yeah, it's all on their commentary. And I figure in the back 10, like I just can't. There is nothing more comforting to me than hearing their voices, like on like a Saturday morning or or a Sunday night. Like there's just something so special about that time period, and I needed them represented for it.
Yeah, this is not how I approached it, but like, I mean, if I really thought about it, they'd be way more warranting of a spot than like Kane and Bill Eadie, probably for sure. When you look at the importance, I just think if you open that floodgate, for me, I'd probably have to include. Well, I mean, I guess Vince and Bobby are already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who else would come? Like Jim Ross, maybe?
I would say that, but maybe. I mean, Taz.
Maybe.
Maybe Taz at least gets in the conversation at the back end. For me, the argument would be, I think Gorilla and Jesse would be like, if you're really opening it up and you're saying influence and all this other shit and not really worrying about wrestler versus this, they may be like top 15 for me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how important they were. So I feel like once you open that floodgate, and Bobby would probably go way up too. Like I have him pretty high as it is, but he'd probably be even higher in that case.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on, like, for me anyway, the list still isn't about just what entertains me the most.
Right.
Like, and if it was, they'd be higher, but it's not. There's a multitude of things that are going into it, so that's why they're. But I definitely see the argument that they probably, in terms of my personal enjoyment, they're probably like in top 10, right?
Right. Yeah. All right. So that's what my 94 I got to do.
Yeah.
All right. So for 94, I had Earthquake. He dropped 22 spots from 72. I think he's just there still. I mean, the run in 90 is such a big deal. Like, and he's such a good worker. He's so over as a heel. He's got the really good matches with Hogan. I know your feelings on National Disasters, but they were still like a pretty big force for me watching as a kid.
And they were big.
They were big, boss.
And boy, is he big.
So yeah, I just, again, back end, I think he was probably a little too high last time, but in rewatching his 90-91, he still got some really good stuff. Jake too. He's got a really good couple of house show matches with Jake in 91. He squashed the snake. He's got a bunch of moments.
He killed the snake
in there. Yeah, just the killing Hogan on the Brother Love show was like a massive moment, especially for me. That's like the first big angle I saw as a kid, so that resonates heavily with me.
And he ran out and beat up Adam Bomb.
He did. He also had the sumo match, which is like a pretty memorable match.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Raw. Yeah.
And even we're doing the Rumble podcast. Like I like his run in 93 where he shows up and goes toe to toe. Okay, my 93, someone who dropped all the way from number 57. So nearly 40 points, and that is the Big Show.
Oh, okay.
I thought after talking to Marcus one day, I thought about dumping him off the list altogether. But I can't in good conscience. I do think there is a bit too much good on that bone.
Right.
Probably the most misused guy in company history.
Yeah, I would say so. I have him. He's still kind of higher for me. He definitely dropped, but I have him up from here. One guy that did drop for me is number 93. He dropped all the way from 56, 37 spots. And
that's the same. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, Mark Henry for me.
Okay.
I think he still warrants a spot, but I just rewatching these different eras, like I'm like, oh, this is the run. Oh no, okay. So yeah, like it's almost like the glimmers of the run are much smaller than you think about during the time. Yep. It's just his peaks are actually pretty high, which we wouldn't think. But he ended up being a pretty good talker. He's got some good storyline stuff. He's got some decent matches. So I think he's got enough volume to get into the back end here. I definitely overrated him. We always joke about the will factor. I think the will factor played a big role last time.
He rated him ahead of Hulk Hogan.
That's true.
Yeah. But no, I think he really liked him. Yeah, I got him a bit higher, but yeah, he's kind of low key bad.
He's got a lot of bad. I'm not going to call him bad, but I think he does have bad stuff.
Oh yeah. No, again, no one's saying anything bad about Mark Henry. Now that you can see my face saying it, hopefully you'll believe it. But yeah, no, I agree. My 92, someone I don't feel you're giving enough respect to because he needs to be on the list, and that is the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock.
I know. I'm going to put him in over Kane.
It's too much. Fuck Kane. It's too much influence. The influence on him is crazy. It's a special couple years. He's so totally unique, totally different character. Like, I don't think he needs to be high, but the WWE, WWF is completely different if he's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And he's always been one of my personal favorites. I think it's bullshit. So I think I gotta
get rid of Kane.
Kane's gonna go.
Get rid of Big Show.
I think Big Show's got more highs than Kane.
Think? I mean, look, there's the Mayweather match.
Yeah, that alone.
Yeah, but Kane's got the feud with The Undertaker. Like, does Big Show have a feud that's even close to that? Even in the stratosphere?
There's so much bad Undertaker Kane, though, that comes from it.
Well, 2010 is...
10, but even the end of 98, like, some of that stuff is pretty rough. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, Kane does have the X-Pac stuff. I don't know.
It's tough, eh? Narrowing it down to 100.
Bill Eadie may just be the one that goes. That's right. Spent 10 minutes stumping for him. Yeah. Our producer Tim's got a good point. He said, "Did Undertaker ever drag Kane off the back of a casket?" I don't think so.
It's true.
That's right. Big Show. Wow. That's why Big Boss Man's list. We'll get to him. All right. My 92 was a big dropper. not a surprise, I think, because we talked about this when we did the episode. He dropped 23 spots down to
John
from
Cena.
69 to 92. Not that far yet. And that is Booker T.
Yeah, see,
This one hurt. I love Booker, but I don't. His peak is WCW. Like, it just is. And his WF peak is 01. And then after that, I just, it's not there. Like, that Cena feud is so disappointing. His 04, Marcus and I had him in conversation. I forget if he ended up making our bottom 5 for 04, 05. Like, that's how consistently shitty he was during that season. And the ones before that aren't much better. He's got the little bounce back in early 03 before Triple H buries him. And that segment is as bad as you remember it being on Raw. Because I had that episode of Ruthless Aggressive podcast with me.
That's right. I heard you talking about it.
Oh my God, it was as bad as you recall. Like, he just shits. It's awful. That's worse than the match. Like, everyone talks about the match and the pedigree. That promo is like an all-time bad Triple H thing. So he's just got nothing else. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's got King Booker. That's it.
Even that though, the matches kind of suck. Like,
it's terrible.
You know, you talk about JBL. Like, I think King Booker's matches are worse than JBL's during his title reign.
Yeah, and his title
matches stink.
And his title reign's not long.
No, it's not that long. It's a good character. I think maybe he's one of those guys that maybe benefits from like the TV, like just seeing him on TV every week as a character was probably fun, but his big matches didn't deliver. So he's on because he's Booker and he's really good in 01 into early 02, like when he first shows up. I like the feud with The Rock and all that.
Team with Goldust.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the Goldust team. Yeah, I mean, that's a big one too.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was in the 70s for me last time, and he's off my list because when I rewatch stuff now, when I see him pop up, I'm never excited. It's always like, oh, okay, we're getting WWF Gold Booker T. Which again, I don't blame him for. He was getting older. It's just it wasn't there anymore for whatever reason.
No, his peak is like 97 to 01. That's his best years.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're getting to it on Warzone, me and Chad. Like, I think we're going to start to really... You can always see it a little bit in the Harlem Heat matches where he's, like, breaking out a little by little. I think in 97 is where he really takes that leap, and you can start to see more and more, like, he's putting it together.
You know, I would actually compare him a little bit to Batista and I know it's a weird comparison, but the reason being is that he was able, and this wasn't as true in WWF, but he was able to add that little snap to his movements.
Yeah.
And his moves, and he made everything look super fucking cool. And that just kind of stopped existing in WWF.
Right.
All right. Well, after all that shit talk of Booker T, my 91 is the Junkyard Dog. Which probably sounds crazy, but I just feel that this dude was so fucking over.
Yeah.
Again, during like a crazy hot period. Easy number 2 face behind Hogan, right? And I would say number 2 face behind Hogan
is the Sable of his era, some would say.
Some would say. I mean, his tits were bigger at that point.
By the end.
But I mean, more over than Andre the Giant at points. You know, like it really is kind of crazy. I think he's probably a bit of a trailblazer too. When I watch his matches, I almost don't care that they're not classics. Like, he's fighting. He's just out there fighting. So the more I watch those house shows, the more I thought, I should find a place for him. And then I did.
I think he is someone that while he has a short run, it was too long for me to really put him on here. Like, because that last year plus is pretty bad. Like, I think if he leaves at WrestleMania 3, that's probably being generous. I think if he sticks around till 3, and then leaves, I think that last year is just rough to watch down the stretch. He's got one. I have to look at it. I think MSG, he's got one of the worst MSG matches we watched. Like, it was just, I can't think of who it is off the top of my head, but it was pretty terrible. And I get it. Like, he's super over, and I think you have to just discount, which is funny we're having this discussion because, again, I think you were so gung-ho on it 5 years ago. You have to discount the work part of it, right? And just check out during that era and say it doesn't matter. The matches weren't there, but it's the atmosphere and how over he is. So I'd probably have him in the first 10 to 15 out.
Yeah, that's fair.
But not in. All right. My 91 is, I'm going to do him and 90 together because they weren't on my list last time. We talked about it a minute ago. It's Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole. I picked the two of them to represent the NXT crew. I think they had the best matches.
So no Gargano?
I don't have Gargano.
Ah, interesting.
He's like the worst of that shit to me.
I know.
Yeah. So,
He's the best, but the worst. Like, it's weird.
So, like, I prefer watching. You know, we know, we've talked about it, right? My NXT of that era is limited. Marcus and I did 18-19, so I got to watch a bunch, and that was like peak kind of, not DIY as a team, but of their feud. I just found Ciampa to be way more engaging in that feud. I think his character is better. His match with Velveteen Dream is great, and like he's just such a driving piece of that. I think his main roster stuff has been better than Gargano. Both have been limited, but I think in his limited presentation when Triple H took over, I thought Ciampa had some fun matches like on Raw and stuff, and his being the bodyguard for the Miz was kind of, actually worked better than you would expect. Gargano hasn't really done much since he showed up.
No.
And then I think Cole, Undisputed Era is like the biggest group of NXT, and he's the leader of it. I think he had the most star potential. I think if he would have stuck around a little longer and made it to the Triple H era and stayed healthy, I think he would have got a massive push. The Bebe in the theme is like the outlaws of this generation, right? And plus he's got the matches on top of it. So as I kind of picked him as the Undisputed Era team, I picked him to represent it on my list. And I picked Ciampa to represent kind of the Gargano-esque type stuff.
I think that's fair. I mean, look, in the end, I ended up cutting all of them. Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, they're all gone. It's not that I don't like them.
O'Reilly.
It's not that I don't like them, but I just, again, like I mentioned, like I just struggle to go back and watch.
Right.
My number 90 is a new guy to my list. He wasn't on in 2017, and that is Xavier Woods.
Mm.
I wanted to give him the props for the New Day. I think his work is pretty good. I like his run as the King so far. I think he ends up being a pretty important guy because the New Day is a big deal, and he is a driving force of that team.
I have him at 89.
Oh, there you go.
I agree with you. I'll tell you, he is a hoot in 15-16.
Yeah.
Playing I would argue, I think he is the driving force for New Day making the leap in 15.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100.
If it's just Kofi and Big E, I don't know if they get there as good as they are. It's Xavier at ringside playing the trombone. He's basically Jimmy Hart. I mean, he's like in the megaphone. He's yelling into the camera. He's popping in on commentary. He's a lot of fun in that role. So I think he's really the driving force of them getting over. So he absolutely deserves to be on this list. In New Day, I mean, you and I had them as a top whatever, right?
Yeah.
2 top 3 team. So,
but you can make an argument they're number 1.
Correct.
And it's a completely valid argument.
Well, and it's funny because then I have Big E at 88. So like, so you could argue for the number 1 tag team of all time, 2 of the guys are bottom 12 of the top 100. Is that too low? But Big E to me, like, he's one of those guys. I think last time I had him at 90, so it's the same. But I expected him to be. And if you would have told me 5 years from 17, I would have said, okay, this guy's going to make the leap. His title reign didn't really get over, and I don't know if it's his fault or not, but maybe they waited too long. I don't know. But it just didn't resonate, and and then he got hurt. So yeah, 5 years from now, I expect him maybe to go back up. And it feels low, but I don't think he's warranted more to move up.
No, I have Big E at 84.
Okay.
So I moved him up 5 slots from not even 5 slots. 5 slots from the 2017. But it's funny, because like we're talking about how like 2 of the 3 New Day are like bottom 12 or bottom 14 or whatever it is. But I find Kofi is the least important part of the New Day, and he is way higher on both of our lists.
I think he's just got more other stuff outside of New Day. Big E, his stuff outside of New Day is very limited. Xavier's like none. Whereas Kofi,
he did a lot of this. He did a lot of this with the chalk.
Right. Yes. Big E did. Yeah.
Like LeBron James.
The thing with Kofi is he's got a whole upper mid card run littered with big time Rumble spots, big time Money in the Bank spots. Like, I mean, he's got a whole thing. We'll talk about
and then a main event run
and a world title run. Yes, with a major WrestleMania moment. So I think he, All right. So where are we at? Who's your?
I 89.
Yeah.
My
you can do your 88 as well.
Okay, well, my 89, moving up 2 spots, is Umaga.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving credit for that Cena match. I quite like his debut in the way he does. I like watching him work. I like watching him work. I wish there was more. And I find even when he's bad or it's never bad. He's just good.
Right.
So, but I can't put him any higher. And 88, someone you mentioned earlier, and that is Goldberg. So for me, he wasn't ranked in my last list. I think he was like 101, if I'm not mistaken. But, the more I thought about it, like I really love that 2016 to 2017 run.
Yeah, it's great.
Except for him beating Kevin Owens, which is fucking stupid. But it's a bit it's a weird thing with him coming back, because I remember he came back and destroyed Dolph Ziggler, and I was like, oh, that's fun. And then he destroyed the Undertaker's career almost, right? So
yeah.
But like you said, all the reasons you said, Goldberg's there. I also think his debut is a low key, like, all-time great moment in company history.
On Raw. Yeah,
with The Rock.
Producer Tim, you had said a couple weeks ago that you were gonna watch his match at WrestleMania 33 because I was hyping it up. Did you get to watch it? Yes, sir. What did you think? 5 stars, my man. Okay.
5 stars. Shit.
That's one of my favorite. I was at that Mania live, and that's one of my favorite live. I've seen some legit 5-star matches, and that was
right.
One of my favorite matches live. And I think a big part of it, and I saw their other one live too, WrestleMania 20. I think a lot of it was the anticipation from that it was like, oh God, this is going to suck. They did the Squash and Survivor Series, and it ended up just being balled out. Like I love that match so much. And it turned me on to like really be more into, that was like a game changer for me as a fan, like way more into big Haas guys throwing down. I don't need a long match. Give me 10 minutes and there's 2 guys beating the shit out of each other. Like that really turned me as a fan and what I'm into. And that match is what started it. And like seeing it live was just awesome. When Brock jumps that spear, it's just like so good. So
that's where he hits the barricade, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I know, it's awesome. No, super fun
great.
match.
Yeah. That's a underrated Mania.
I think it's hurt by the main event.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the Manias of that era.
Yeah, and Triple H Rollins.
Triple H and main events. Who knew?
Yeah. All right. So where are we at? Did your 88 or no? It was Goldberg. Okay.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, I didn't have Woods ranked last time, so he came in.
Okay.
All right. Last time this guy was 74. He's at 87 for me now. Is Dynamite Kid. I think the volume. I mean, his influence is there. He's got obviously he's an awesome worker, but I just like it doesn't pile up for me when you start to look at compiling.
Yeah.
But I couldn't take him off. I mean, he's so great.
Yeah, I guess I just don't. I think he's good. I think he's great. He's a great worker. He reminds me of William Regal. I find it very similar, except he's got
the influence is higher for me.
Is it though?
Yeah,
it like
I do.
Who does he influence?
Chris Benoit.
You're okay with that influence?
As a worker, yeah.
Oi, Chris, make sure you lock the dogs out of the house.
Make sure you murder them all if you're going to take any of them out.
And then kill your fucking self.
No one else was doing the shit he was doing in the WWF. And you see that when you watch that era. So, I mean, he stands out as like, all right, maybe he didn't directly influence Rey Mysterio, but to me, he's like a Rey Mysterio type guy. When you were watching 96 ECW or WCW, you're like, oh shit. Like, this guy's doing stuff we haven't seen that's on TV right now. To me, that was Dynamite in the WWF in 85, 86. Like, he's flying around. He's doing crazy stuff. I mean, and he does have the WrestleMania 2 match, right? Like, I mean, that's a great match that he's got on his resume. He's got the title win. He's Ozzy Osbourne and all that. Like, he's got moments. His peak is just very brief. He's great at the Wrestling Classic as well. Yeah. Match with Savage and all that. So,
I can't. I wouldn't fight you having him on. I think when I was watching those. No, Daniel will fucking fight.
Fight.
I would say that of all the things I watched in the MSG, though, and this might sound a bit blasphemous, what I was most let down by was the Hart Foundation tag work and the Bulldog tag work. And not that I thought it was bad. I thought it was very good. In some instances, great. I was just expecting more.
Yeah.
All right, my 87, not ranked last time. Interesting contrast to Dynamite Kid. Late arrival, we didn't talk about him either, and that is Billy Gunn.
Dun, 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 dun. We did talk about him. Was it the Rumble? We did a whole thing on him as theme music.
Yes, but that was the Rumble. It wasn't on this. We didn't talk about him on this.
He's not on my list, but I'm not against it.
Yeah, he's good. He's like, I think he's a bit of an underrated worker.
You know what Chad Campbell will tell you?
What?
Bart's better.
It's possible. Look, Bart fought Butterbean. No, I think his tag work is really good. I think his singles work is actually good too. It's just he might be a guy who just is a victim of horrible circumstance. Like when they're trying to push him, they were also pushing Triple H at the same time.
Same hair.
The Rock, same hair. You know, like I mean, he punches with his wrists. You know, he's a rodeo dude. There's a lot for and against, but the more I think about it, like I think in general, I really liked his work. In '99, I was like really on board with him being the King of the Ring.
You should just rewatch '96 Raw and the Smoking Guns run, and you may drop them back off the list.
It's possible. Well, it's funny is that when you watch, I haven't watched a lot. I watched at the time, but when you just watch the pay-per-views, the Smoking Guns to me seem like a really good team.
The week to week, I mean,
yeah,
I felt the same way, but watching the 95, 96 week to week, they've dropped in my eyes because and I know they don't have a ton to work with, but they don't raise anybody up. And their stuff is boring. I'm actually with Chad. I find Bart to be more engaging. In '96, Billy's actually super annoying with all the Sunny stuff and all that. I mean, obviously has the bigger career later. I mean, whatever. Yeah.
For me, the Smoking Guns just seem like chapter 1 of his career, and it just goes up from there. And I don't know, Badass Billy Gunn was always a cool name. It does. The Outlaws are a big
He's
deal.
fine for the back end. I don't think he's any different than a Hercules and a Regal. I mean, whatever the fuck. I mean, this bottom 15 is like kind of
that's it.
Yeah.
It's all like, hey, what are we doing here?
All right. Well, here's a guy that only dropped 2 spots last time for me. I'm guessing he's lower than you have him, but that is the Honky Tonk Man.
Oh yeah, I got him way higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a brief little run, but for me, where it's like all comes together at that late 87, from when he wins the IC title until 88. I found he went off the cliff so fast in 88 that I couldn't stand watching him after that. Like, he pisses away. He's still hot as a heel, but like he pisses away all the goodwill that he built up in 87. Like with the, I'm just not I don't know. Like, I just feel like the Beefcake feud is terrible in ring. The Steamboat matches, the Savage matches go down. If you look at his Savage matches from like late 87 MSG into MSG, Savage main event, blah, 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 it's diminishing every time. It like starts at 3.5, then it's like 3, 2.5, 2, like, and then that's it. He just like bottoms out for me. So all-time great, like 4-month run as a heel for me. I'm just not as tied to that reign as you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he's my first Intercontinental champion, right?
Yeah.
Like when I started watching, he was there, and I had the catharsis of seeing him beat by the Warrior.
Yeah.
And when I went back and looked at him for the rest of it I really became enamored with the whole shtick. Like, I think it's really, really solid. So, I mean, I won't talk about him at length when I get to him, but I have him pretty high. Like, I have him at 65.
Right.
Ahead of someone that's going to make people throw their computer. But yeah, so yeah, I got him higher.
All right, who's your 86?
My 86 is Jey Uso.
Okay.
So I threw Jimmy off the list because I was like, I just don't want to give them only credit for their tag stuff. But I think Jey Uso has just an incredible, maybe my favorite feud. I mean, I almost don't consider Cena and Punk a feud, but probably my favorite storyline since then with him and Roman when that shit starts in the pandemic. I know not big on the pandemic stuff, but I just think it's so solid. It's so real. It's so raw. And Jey is raw. And Jey is great. He's just so good at it. It's so good that it makes me down on the rest of Roman's reign.
Right.
Not that I think Roman's reign is bad. I think it's actually really great.
Roman Reigns is reign.
Roman Reigns. No,
and his reign.
But because that was so amazing, and I think a lot of it is right on Jay's shoulders. There's this great promo where he tells Reigns he hates him on fucking SmackDown, and he's crying, and it's like it's I don't know, man.
All the
it's
stuff
real.
with Sami Zayn has been great too.
Oh yeah, right. And it's still like the driving force of that whole storyline.
Yeah, I have him higher. I got both Usos on, so we'll talk about it in a second. 85 is the guy you don't have anymore. I had him at 68 last time. That's JBL. I just think we talked about it. We don't have to go into it again. Who's your 85?
85, King Kong Bundy.
Not on my list.
I got to give him credit for that early run. Big part of my early fandom. Main evented a WrestleMania and was a legit threat. Easy pick.
All right, 84, someone who's not on my list, and she's fairly close to going back down that list, and that's Ronda Rousey. But I just think the debut match is so good. That initial run is awesome. We could talk about it all day, but she's the reason they main evented had the first ever women's main event at WrestleMania. Since her return from having the baby, not been as good, getting a little bit more exposed. I think her real life personality drives some of that as well, how she's viewed. But I think she's done enough in a short time to be considered. Yeah, if you look at my list, I got I think 6 or 7 women, and she's got to be one of the top 6 or 7 women of all time in my eyes. So she's on the list.
I have her higher. We'll get to her.
Okay.
My 84 is Big E, so we talked about him. My 83 is someone off your list, and that's Yokozuna.
Ooh, I'm surprised by that because you were anti-Yokozuna.
Well, I don't think I was anti
you used to say his title reign was awful. He's boring. I think you yelled at me when I had him on last time.
I had him on my list last time. He actually went up a spot. He was at 84, so he's around the same spot. But I think he's better in the ring than I remember. I really love the match with Bret at WrestleMania 9.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love the title reign. I still think that it's better if it's in someone else's hands. But I think he did well. He's memorable. He's a big character. So I wanted to give him some respect. Okay.
All right. My 83 is another newcomer to the list, another female worker, and that is Bianca Belair. Do you have her?
Yeah. No.
Okay. Great worker. Super over. I really like her NXT stuff from what I've seen. Main evented a night at WrestleMania. Another one I was at live, which was just an awesome match with Sasha Banks. I know I'm higher on that than you are. I liked her SummerSlam match as well. I just think she really resonates. And I think when you look at the intangibles of a top level main eventer, she's got all of them. The hair whip too is super unique as well, and that really hits every time she does it. When she first did it to Sasha at Mania, it was great. So again, if you're talking to me, top 7, 8 women of all time, I think she's already there for me.
Yeah, she's nowhere close for me, and it's not that I think she's bad. I think she's quite good. I just feel that none of what she does clicks for me.
Right.
I don't particularly find her interesting in the ring. I don't like her look, and I don't mean that in an attraction way. There's something off about her look for me, whether it's the name on the pants or I don't know. I was watching something the other night she was on, and it's when I'm watching her, I'm like, there's no reason not to like her, but it's just not clicking. And
no, she's no Sable in the ring.
No, she's not. But I don't know. There's just something missing. Maybe more time will pass, and
I think the next 5 will be interesting for her, right? Because is she going to elevate and become a stalwart at the top of the card and dominant and break through and be a transcendental wrestler for them? Or is she going to kind of already peaked and then they kind of misuse her and she goes to AEW, right? I think there's a couple paths, right? So, all right, who's your 83?
83 Yokozuna.
Oh, that's right. All right, my 82 is another female, so I get 3 in a row. Good. She was at 93, so she's moved up from the 11 spots. That's Trish Stratus. We talked a lot about her. I think she's definitely grown, I think, in both of our eyes, watching how she stewarded the women's division in those early years, which I think, you admitted to having underrated a lot of that. Going back and rewatching everything, open it up. I think your wrestler that wasn't her was excellent. So do you have her ranked?
Oh yeah, higher, substantially higher.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. My 82 was my 82 last time. Didn't move a muscle, and that's Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah, I have him. I have him at 79. So he dropped from me 25 spots. I had him at 52.
Whoa.
We'll call it the Will effect again. Again, though, look, you can see the trend of the guys I overrated, right? We know they're great workers, whether the resume was there or not, and he fits right in that bucket where his resume was bigger than a Harley and a Funk and all those guys. But I think he's just missing that one. I think the one thing he just never had was that super hot big time main event run. He's just a little cooked by that point. So, and they transitioned to a comedy guy so quickly that it's never believable. The Brett was the chance in '93, and they almost did it, right? But he never had like that real super run of this is the king from like Memphis, right? He's always just kind of a comedy guy, which you get a lot of mileage out of. So,
but he was already old when he came in, and then they were pushing other old guy Bob Backlund. So, like, what chance does this dude have? Yeah. Where's the great match?
Yeah, no, he doesn't have. I mean, Brett at SummerSlam, but that's more story than match.
And then even then he's got a bunch of bad.
Yeah,
like I mean that Piper match is bad.
The Miz match is pretty good.
Yep, I would agree. The match where he has the heart attack is bad.
For him. It's almost bad for everyone.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we at?
That was my 82.
All right, my 81. Another big dropper. Dropped 22 spots from 59. Cowboy Bob Orton. Very similar, right? He's a great worker and blah 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 blah. But I think he's in that Bundy group, like you mentioned. Just like he's got like some real high spots, some quality spots. I like his stuff with this Piper's Bitch Boy is like so good. If you watch stuff like TNT and like that TV, like he just really adds a lot to the Piper package. As over as Piper was, without having like that stooge with him, may not resonate as well, right? Like the guy to kind of take the beating for him a lot of the time.
Yeah. I'll always love him showing up at WrestleMania 21 with that fucking cast on his arm.
Oh yeah, it's great.
But he was a guy that when I was watching the MSGs, I was looking for reasons to include him in the list.
Yeah.
Because that was your influence on me. I was like, oh, I really want to give this guy a shot. And I just, for whatever reason, I just didn't find them. Like
given the Undertaker communicable disease isn't good enough for you?
No, I like the Undertaker. I don't want him dead.
Okay.
Maybe if he gave Kane a communicable.
Yes. Give Kane multiple hepatitis.
Speaking of one, 81 is Kane for me.
All right, we're done talking Kane. Yeah. Number 80, another guy dropped 18 spots for me. Was Ken Patera. Mm-hmm. Same bucket as Orton, right? Like, I mean, we know he's a great worker. He's got some big matches. He's got the big angle with the haircut. He's got the match with Backlund. Honestly, I always, Scott and I, it's one of the big running jokes of early PTB, right? It was like creamy legs and all this bullshit shit. But he's actually not bad in that run.
No, he's
as a worker. He's got some decent little MSG stuff in there. That one match, I think, is like him and Billy Jack for Demolition or so. Like, it was like actually kind of fun. Like, he's got some decent little stuff in that run. And that angle was actually pretty over with Bobby when he busts his neck up and all that shit.
Oh, yeah. Now, I have him pretty well. Again, I was watching the MSGs during this period, so he's higher. My 80 is someone who dropped 34 spots from number 46. Here's the Will influence. It's fucking Goldust.
Yeah. He's I have him at 74 and I had him at 39 last time.
Yep.
He's a guy that's been hurt for me watching Warzone. Like Chad and I had him at MVP every week on Raw, and then April goes off the fucking cliff. And I'm in December now, and he hasn't bounced back yet. I haven't seen it. I know that I don't think he gets...
Spoiler alert, he doesn't.
Yeah, it's not until Cody, and even that's brief,
Yeah.
I think there was an underground movement in the mid 2010s of like really digging dudes that had some good matches on like C shows, right?
Yeah.
And he had like a really good little sneaky run, like on Superstars and stuff. Like it was him, Chuck Palumbo. Like there's a couple other guys that like
Chris
really
Masters,
like really kind of got a little underground love at that time. And I think that helped the Goldust push toward being that high. But yeah. All right. So that's our 80s. My 79 was Lawler.
Yeah. My 79, you talked about Mark Henry.
Okay.
Who dropped like 19 spots.
Right. 78 dropped 7 spots for me as Jimmy Uso. I kept him on the list. I mean, to me, the Usos are a top 2 to 3 tag team of all time. So to me, I'd keep both those guys.
Yeah. See, well, then why aren't you keeping Smash?
Yeah. I mean, I think Jimmy has overall more. Like Smash is brief plus Repo Man. I mean, I don't know, maybe Smash. I'd rather watch like Jimmy work matches.
Look, I love the Usos. I think they're incredible.
Yeah.
I think the reason I bumped him off is because he only has tag.
Right.
And I was like,
I just think even if you said that, I think his tag is better than Smash. Like,
I would agree, but then why aren't I including the Revival, who have the best tag team?
I don't know. That's on you.
History? But that's my argument, right?
Right.
Why aren't I including the Dudleys? Right?
I think the Usos just have a better run. I mean, you included Billy Gunn.
Yeah, but he also did well in a singles role, and he was also a multiple
But
partner
his
tag team guy.
yeah, but they weren't all good. Like,
Oh
it
no,
wasn't all great. Yeah.
no. Well, but I mean,
I think
look,
the
like,
Usos have been consistently good. Like,
I agree.
I mean, watching their early stuff when he first pops up has, been surprisingly pretty good too. So,
Oh, I'm not disputing that the Usos are a better tag team than any tag team Billy Gunn had. I just think that, like, it's almost like I'm saving them for the tag list.
that's never going to come.
We're not doing that again.
All right. Who's your 78?
78, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Ah, you got him a lot higher than me.
Yeah, but he dropped. I had him 66 last time.
Wow.
I just think that he's one of the most memorable characters of all time.
Yeah.
One of the most over guys in company history. Maybe
he has to be on every list. I think he has to be on every list. Like, you can't do a top 100. Even Scott. I think Scott did have him last time.
Yeah, I think he did.
You can't not have him. I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
All right. My 77, we talked about already, is Big Show. I had him at 66.
Right. My 77, dropping only 6 spots, is Rick Martel. And I'm hoping that he's coming up very soon for you too.
Not very soon, but sooner than he would have a few months ago.
Okay.
All right. My 76. This may be our first on-air video fight.
Ooh,
this is bogus. It's bogus. Psycho Sid at 76.
God.
I had him at 67, so he actually dropped a little bit for me. But
God damn it!
I will say, here's one match that I loved of his that I had never really seen before. The March 1992 Madison Square Garden Battle Royal.
Oh.
That whole night. I think it's the same night as the Hercules thing. So maybe it's in that run. He's great in that Battle Royal. He's awesome. So that's worth checking out when you get there for sure. But I mean, it's Sid, whatever. His 95 is so fucking bad.
I know. But his 96 is so fucking good. I saw him in, I want to say February or March 92. I saw him live fight Randy Savage in a cage at the Montreal Forum. And it was supposed to be Jake, but Jake didn't show up. He probably got stopped at the border. And then they brought Sid out, and Sid just fucking murdered him for 15 minutes.
Here, though, is the thing. His 96 isn't as great as you remember it being.
No, it's as great.
A lot of the Raw stuff is kind of bland. I know you love the Bulldog match at SummerSlam, but his match with Vader is kind of okay. Survivor Series is great. I just watched It's Time with Brett.
Well, look who's fighting. Look who Sid's fighting.
I know, Brett sucks. WrestleMania 97. I mean, WrestleMania 97. Royal Rumble 97. We just talked about WrestleMania 13. And that's it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't, that run is not as, everyone remembers the return and Survivor Series. And look, the charisma is through the roof. He's fucking crazy. He murders Pete Lothario. It's all fun, but it's just there's a lot more. It's so hard to do this list because when you start to look at the week-to-week stuff for a lot of these guys is where it can crumble on them. And he's one of those guys that takes the hit because week to week, it's he's not doing much.
I just love seeing him. And
I know, you love him. That's fine.
He still dropped. Look, he dropped 22 spots on my list.
Right. I don't think a lot of people would even have him on their list, to be honest.
Fucking idiots. You're fucking morons. He's Sid Justice.
I am telling you. All right. Who's your 76?
Cody Rhodes. So Cody Rhodes was 99 on my list last time. And when we first did our cut, I wasn't going to include him at all. But if you remember, if it would have included him, it would have been in the back end of the 90s, which we would have recorded in January. Right. But then he had that, I thought, the best match at WrestleMania, the return.
Forgotten.
Yeah, but just great. I thought it was legit great.
Yeah.
I thought it told a great story. And then I think the whole series with Seth Rollins is really
Backlash
good.
was
then he's
great,
got that all-time he's got that fucking gimmick all over his shoulder, he can barely
I think he'll
move,
be,
which is incredible.
I probably didn't think through him enough. Probably should be honest. Some of the Stardust stuff is so bad, but I think Legacy. I'm rewatching a lot of the Legacy stuff now too with PTB. So I think if we do this again in 5 years, even in 2 years, I think he'll be way up because I think he'll come back, and I think there's a chance a year from now, he's won a Royal Rumble and probably won a world title. So I think there's there's a good chance if we do this even a year from now, he's probably.
And look, I thought enough of him in 2017 to put him on the list without this comeback.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think he's kind of a little under the radar. Like he's like when he has that whole, he was really adaptable. Right. Like he went from being the legacy guy to the dashing guy. Then he got his face smashed. He was kind of Dr. Doom for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was only when they were just like, okay, he's got a mustache now. That's when they kind of like stopped caring.
Right. Yeah.
But even right after that, you got the all-time tag stuff with Goldust. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this guy's making some moves, and I thought he had enough good stuff to make my list here.
All right, my 75 dropped 18 spots from 57. That's Big Boss Man. He's got some really great stuff, but he's also, there's just like stretches where it's just kind of blah, especially like that last year. He's like really over 92. He doesn't do anything. I know he's got nails, but like other than that, it's like there's not much going on for him. Even in 91, like he turns, and then after the Heenan feud, he doesn't do much at all. Like he's got the Mountie stuff, but
he wears that hat, the baseball cap.
He's got the baseball cap. He kind of, then he's got like that boring feud with IRS that goes nowhere. But he does have the Hogan feud, which is awesome.
And why are they fighting? They're both government employees.
Right. They should. Well,
aren't they?
They can fight.
Part of the same union, probably.
And different stuff. The boss, him torturing Big Show is obviously great, but the rest of that run, once you get to that point, is 2000s are rough with him through a lot of it. I like him early on, but even his teamwork with Shamrock is like kind of boring. So he's got some really good stuff. I think he's just a back end guy, but he's definitely in the top 100. No question.
Oh yeah. Look, I have him at 69.
Okay.
So we're not far.
Very sexual. Who's your 75?
Bobby Heenan.
All right. Let's save him for a minute.
Yeah.
A few minutes. The way the show's gone, about an hour. 74, speaking of sexual, is where I have Goldust. Like I said, I dropped 35 spots, made him at 39.
Right.
Who's your 74?
I actually think Goldust versus Cody is an interesting comparison. And I mean, if we do this again in 5 years, that'll be one to talk about. My 74 is Pedro Morales. I considered bouncing him off the list because I don't enjoy his work.
Right.
But
that's the type of guy you want on a list with a lot of personal.
I know, but then I kept
to watch his matches.
But then I kept coming back to like, okay, well, he was champion for a really long time.
Right.
Helped establish the Intercontinental title also. Perpetually over. Like when he started doing those fucking, when he bit his lip, like, and started punching, like, I mean, the crowd went nuts for him. So he needs to be on the list.
Yeah.
I said begrudgingly.
He's not on my list. He was on. No, he's off. All right. 73. This guy moved up 10 spots for me, and that's Don Morocco.
Oh, I have him at 70. Who wasn't on my list last time, but that was
awesome.
a major oversight. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so good. He's just, everything he does is great. Like even when, I think his face shit's underrated. Like I actually quite liked watching him in 88 on 87. He'd pop up in those MSGs. And I'm like, fuck, this guy's still like churning out some pretty good matches. He had good fire.
The Jesus Christ Superstar music too.
Yeah. Or the network dub.
No, yeah. No, I really I loved watching him on my MSG watches, and I always loved him as a kid. Like I loved Don the Rock Morocco.
Yeah.
My 73, Ronda Rousey. We talked about it earlier, but I just think that whole first year is all time.
Yeah.
All time, and the good she did the division is almost immeasurable.
72 is Jey Uso. He actually dropped 2 spots for me. I think I just had him probably a little high last time. He's done a lot of great stuff since. When we talked about it, like his role in the Sami Zayn and the Bloodline and all that, like he's like a key driver in that feud. So
yeah,
he might go up again next time if they continue like presenting him at that level.
Look, in theory, he's the logical choice to beat Roman, right?
They'll never do it, but yeah.
No, but that's the story, right? That's how the story should end.
Him, Sammy being the one that defends Roman, and Jay turning. Jay winning the Rumble and having to make the decision to face Roman or not. Yeah. And like Sammy giving him shit and him doing it would be like a wonderful story. They would never do it. Well, even though they could if they do the Rock thing. Because they could sacrifice night 1 and do Roman and Jay, knowing you still have Roman Rock on night 2.
Yeah. You could also do something where like you have Sammy and Jay as like the last 2 Rumble guys.
Right.
And like one of them's trying to get the other one to give it up, but they're going to end up getting the shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
That'd be some interesting conflict. My 72 had him at 47 last time, and that is the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, he dropped for me too. He's still a little bit higher. He dropped about 20 for me, so we'll get to him in a little
He's
bit.
got, like, with him, I just kept thinking, like, I kept banging guys against him and not inside of him, against him. And I was like, oh, okay, he'll go ahead. He'll go ahead. And then he ended up dropping to 72. So here we are.
The problem with him is, like, I think he gets dinged. He's one of the few guys on my list that gets dinged because he fucks up his potential. Like, he's almost punished for stuff he doesn't have, in a weird way. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like, it's like the student who you expect more out of, and you punish him for not delivering on that, whether it's fair or not. Like, I just expect way more out of him, and I never get it. And so
he's got all the fucking money in the world. He
can't buy good match ratings.
No, but it's not just match ratings too. I just find that, like, once you get past the mega powers, his feuds all feel, it's like they're trying to find stuff for him to do.
He's finding them. It's just that where's the blow-offs never work. It's just, and the Money Inc., we know how we feel about that. It's like, WrestleMania 9's all-time bad, big-time match. So it's just not there. Like, it's just, he doesn't have it. I still have high because the character's so good and his promo skills are so good. But
is Virgil the only guy to win a blow-off against him?
Clean.
Yeah.
And Savage. Yeah.
But...
all right, my 71, we mentioned her earlier, and that's China. Not on my list last time.
Oh shit, you went high on China.
Yeah, she's awesome. Marcus he's listed in. Him and I did War 99 2000, and she's just awesome in that run. Like, she's super over. That's her peak. You mentioned Sable earlier. Like, China to me is like the next level of her, and was super believable in there with the men. First female Intercontinental Champion, first female to be in the Royal Rumble, first female to be in the King of the Ring. Like, she hits all those. Yes, Jenny loves China as well.
She took Paul Levesque's virginity.
She did.
She raped him, right? That's what happened.
Yeah, Jenny's got to do a list though to get the credit, so maybe she should step up and do that, and put China high. Yeah. But I think China deserves the recognition. To me,
is Jenny doing a list of wrestlers or of people that have raped Triple H?
Probably both. But I said you've got to do a GWE list, so do it.
Do the rape list too, please. That's what I'm asking you for.
All right, 71 for you.
Ravishing Rick Rude. So him and DiBiase feel totally intertwined, and I love Rick Rude. One of my all-time favorite characters, but like sneaky bad longevity. Like, you don't realize he's only there for like 2.5 years.
His best stuff is not in the WWF. It's in WCW. And here's a sneaky fact that I've learned over the last year. His ECW stuff is far superior. To his, like, really? He's in there way more than I thought. He's in there all of 97, and he's great.
Is he wrestling there?
No, it's commentary and like just like a shit stir up and down the card.
Right.
And they bake in his WWF run into the programming. How he's a free agent and all this stuff. Jenny said he's genius. And then even the payoff at the end is good with him going to WCW. So, like, but his WWF stuff is underwhelming.
Yeah.
And I posited this in the past, and I stand by it, that Ultimate Warrior actually carried his best match. So I think he's a guy that didn't figure it out till he was gone. Like, where he really put it together is in that WCW run.
He shaved his mustache where I'm at too, and it's like, what's happening?
It's like when Scott shaves. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. So I had him at 62, but he dropped 18 spots. I had him at 44.
Right.
So all right, where are we at? 70.
Year 70.
All right, guy who went up 16 spots for me, Dean Ambrose.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I have him at 59. So
yeah, I mean, he's great with all the Shield stuff. He's got tons of big time matches. Superstar. The end is a little sad, but for the most of the part, he's great.
He was clearly just so unhappy.
Right. Yeah, he's just going through the motions. To me, he's the most consistently great of the Shield. He doesn't have like the downs that Reigns has, or the downs that Rollins has,
or the making me not want to watch the product like Rollins.
Right, which is funny because he's the lowest rated, but
I know.
They lean on him to get Reigns back over in 15 as well. Like he's also get him over.
it's interesting because you talked about like being hard on DiBiase, but it's like of the Shield, he's the one who had the least opportunities.
Correct.
And it feels
he makes the
like
most of his own.
Yeah, he builds his own things, but it also feels like he probably had some of the highest potential.
Right.
Like I think if you looked at all three of them in say 2012 to 2014 when the Shield was a thing, I'm thinking you're probably thinking Ambrose is going to be the biggest star, not based on push, just based on total packages.
Right.
I mean, they're always going to push Reigns because of those fucking eyes. My 70s Don Morocco.
Okay. My 69, he rose 16 spots. The guy you really kind of stumped for as we've been through this, Dolph Ziggler. I think I did probably underrated him. I probably maybe still underrating him a bit, but he just peaks out at me because again, he's a better version of Miz for me.
Yeah.
Where he goes through these stretches where I just don't want to see him anymore. And then he'll like have like a cool little mini run of like 3 months where it's like, oh, okay, this guy's really good, right? And then he goes back to just like stretches of sleepwalking for months at a time.
I'm curious about how much that is him versus that being his booking.
Yeah, because... but that fits like Ambrose to me. It's like similar. Yeah. It's like, it's a guy that tries to make the most out of it, and then he just like loses interest and just gets lazy. And booking makes it happen, but he's not a guy that tries to make, like you mentioned Zack Ryder earlier, right? To me, that's a guy you try to make the best of every situation, no matter what.
Right.
Guys like Ziggler to me, like check out when they're not getting the push they think they should.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree. I feel like he's always up there. Maybe he's just doomed. I remember Kevin Kelly a long time ago talking about how like it's just because he's named Dolph Ziggler, right? But like,
stupid name.
Like it is a terrible name, but like he's a legitimate wrestling champion, like a great talker. I can go on and on about him, and I will when we get to him. My 69 is the Big Boss Man.
Okay. My 68 dropped, actually rose 5 spots, and that's Paul Orndorff.
Hey, that's my 68, and he dropped 6 spots for me.
He's great.
Yeah, he's just awesome. I think it's the fight he has with Piper on Saturday Night's Main Event. Like it just feels like a real fight.
That's one of the best matches ever. That's just like the heat for that match is friggin' insane. Yeah. He's got the eyes at WrestleMania 2. Probably dings him a bit. That match stinks too. I don't understand that match. I don't. Even rewatching all like the stuff leading up to WrestleMania 2 and appreciating WrestleMania 2 better, that I still don't get it. I don't. That seems like such a miss for me, that match.
Yeah, because I mean, we like both guys, right?
Yeah. It should have hit. I don't know why it doesn't resonate. It just is a botch. All right, my 67 I did not have ranked last time, and it was a lot of a discussion for us, but he definitely deserves to be on here. Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have him a bit higher.
Yeah.
We'll get to him.
Okay.
My 67 I did not have ranked last time, and he fucking forced his way onto my list with his bubbly arms and his shiny head, and that's Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, I have him at 60. He was also not rated for me last time. His return run has been great.
So good.
His match at Great American Bash 07 definitely holds up. 07, right? 07.
Yep.
I like him in that feud with the McMahons too. Like he's really good in that. He was good in the Trump feud, and then the return run has been awesome. He's great.
He's just so much more. I remember loving him around 2015. I started watching TNA, and he was there, and I was like, "Holy shit, he's good! Like, where did this guy come from?" And I was so happy when he came back. And I think his feud with Drew is like low key, like banger after banger kind of thing.
That's a Tampa Mania, right?
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great match.
Yeah. I just rewatched his match with Brock, where I think it's a terrible ending to the match, but I thought the match was great. Like just legit, looks like he can kill you. I love the addition of MVP. And I mean, a guy who it's on my list and at 67 now, and your list too. No, where is he? 60 for you, right?
60, yeah.
Yeah, like could move up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and he went from not ranked to 60 for me. And there's another guy right next to him. We'll talk about in a second. The same. 66 dropped 1 spot for me. That's Asuka.
Oh.
I just think the injury and then being off TV for a while, like it felt stagnant. But she's still got all the great NXT stuff. She's still a super compelling character. She's one of the best they've ever had in ring. Just I think she's like almost a transcendent charisma that
Right.
you don't get a lot of with a lot of the earlier women competitors that is like coming on more now. But yeah, just someone that doesn't need to talk a ton to connect.
No, look, I have her at 64, and that's up one spot. She was 65 in 2017, but I think the ding for her, and I remember in 2017 thinking that she was going to kind of run away with the women's division. Like if you had
Right.
told
Oh
me,
yeah.
if you had told me in 2017 that in 2022 we'd be redoing this, and I put Asuka as the top woman, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. But she's been a bit disappointing, and I wonder if I don't know if she must have the ability, but I don't know if the language barrier is a thing. The ability to like maintain a complex storyline, because in the end she ends up being a bit one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Goldberg's one-dimensional and we like him, but I don't know, like I agree she's just like she's probably the best in ring. She's probably the best in ring ever of the women, maybe Charlotte, debatable, but a bit one-dimensional, I think, which is a shame because she's good.
It feels like someone that I had high that's not that far from her now, Ricky Steamboat. Right? Just like a great charisma, great in-ring worker.
Get ready.
But not like not like a lot of depth beyond that.
Right. Well, and I think too what hurts Asuka is it there's a couple things she does that veer into the too goofy for me.
Right.
Like that weird dance and all that. Like
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't know what it is, and I don't mind dancing. I don't mind weirdness, but the weirdness with her, I don't know. It's that kind of stuff that makes me think the show.
I think it's like actually a I don't know. I think it resonates more with like a modern. I think we're just old. Like I think she like resonates probably like with a younger crowd that's like into Twitch and kind of the goofy, irreverent humor. Like that seems to be what she taps into.
Yeah.
All right. Who's your 66?
Take a guess.
Oh, Ricky Steamboat.
It's absolutely Ricky Steamboat. Like this is a guy. So I dropped him 22 spots. He was 44 last time, which I think is too high. He's just not there long enough. And again, like I told you, I thought I was very disappointed in the Hart Foundation and the British Bulldogs when I went back and watched the MSGs. I was also really disappointed with Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
And again, not because he's bad. He's never bad, but he's Ricky Steamboat. Like everything's supposed to be amazing, right? I don't hate him. I don't want to disrespect him. But I don't think he can get any higher just based off the Savage match.
This is Marcus's favorite topic. He sat at a table in Tampa and listened to Ricky Steamboat argument for like an hour and a half. I had him at 57. I had him at 34 last time, so he dropped quite a bit for me as well. Yeah, we just talked about it with Asuka. It's like the same thing. He's just got some bigger highs, obviously,
and better in WCW, like Rick Rude.
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, he's a legend there. His run is short. I mean, he's really only there for like 3 years, and he's checked out for like a quarter of it. So his real run is like WrestleMania 1 to summer
WrestleMania 8.
8.
Oh, not 8. Excuse me. 88. 4. WrestleMania 4.
Yeah, but even then, like I think
once the Honky Tonk Man humbles him.
Yeah. But his feud with Honky's not bad either on MSGs and stuff. All right. 65 for me is Adrian Adonis. Moved down 4 spots.
Yeah, he didn't make my list.
I think you're underrating him.
I know, but I've been watching it, and like
I know.
I think he's really good, but again, it must just be the connection.
Yeah, I think it's I think I have him like the best of that bunch of guys I dropped off. Harley, like guys you just know are great workers, but I think he's got like the most. Plus, he's got the character stuff and the Piper match.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, all right, who's your 65?
Honky Tonk Man.
All right, we talked about him.
One slot ahead of Steamboat, which feels like sacrilege. But anytime I think of him running away from Randy Savage with Jimmy Hart and Peggy Sue in tow, I'm in fucking heaven, because like it's such a stupid visual, but it's so perfect for wrestling.
Right. All right, my 64 Iron Sheik. I had him at 60 last time. We love Sheiky. Great worker. has some big time matches. It's got the big moment with Hogan and Backlund. So yeah,
I got him at 40.
Yeah, all right. I like it.
Yeah, he's I love him. 64 is Asuka for me. We talked about her.
All right, my 63 is Big Sexy Kevin Nash. So he's
Holy shit.
up 1 from last time. You have him higher?
Okay. Yeah, I'm at 52.
Okay.
He moved up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we could talk about him. Like, I went back and forth on him. Like, how much do you punish him for everything post 2002?
Yeah, I think it's minimal. He's just not there a ton. I think it's just his 95. It hurts, for sure.
But he's got great energy in it. Like, I feel like
those matches. It's a lot of big matches that stink.
Yeah.
Sid stinks. King of the Ring stinks. Sid stinks. Mabel. In Your House 4 is fucking terrible. It's just like that's a big run of pay-per-views that they needed him to carry. That he couldn't carry. Like, I know they didn't do him any favors, right? If you put him with Brett, Shawn, Bigelow, Owen, like whatever, you probably get some better stuff. But Bret Hart has a better match with British Bulldog 2 months later. That's awesome. And Diesel's a fucking stinker. So it's like, I think him being at 63 is like still pretty friggin' high considering that run.
Yeah, for me, it's like the guys around him. And I guess we'll get that as we go. My 63 is Trish Stratus.
Okay.
I had her a bit lower until actually this morning, but then I was thinking about it and it's like, in the end, like it's funny, but like she's got more great matches than Ted DiBiase, which is crazy to me. In the end, she's way more influential than any of the people we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then she improved and she keeps coming back. And so I completely disrespected her in 2017, I think. And I've really come around.
You think? Definitely.
Yeah. And I heard Maurice recently described as Canada's greatest export. But I think Trish gives her a run for the money.
All right, my 62 we talked about quite a bit a minute ago. That was Ravishing Rick Rude. He dropped 18 spots for me from last time.
My 62 is Sean Waltman. He dropped.
Higher.
Well, and here's the thing, right? I went back and forth with like, could he be ahead of Kevin Nash?
Right.
And I just can't.
Yeah.
I just don't think his impact is nearly enough. And I mean, he's got that huge DX run, which is meaningful, but then he also doesn't have, I mean, Nash has got bad matches, but Nash also has the high-end matches to go with it, which Sean Waltman doesn't have.
Yeah.
And
I have Waltman 15 higher, so I have him at 48. I had him up from 53. I don't know. I think it's just a personal thing. I just love watching him. I think everything he does is like super fun. I think he's really ahead of his time. You heard a lot of New Gen on a Mission with Pratt and Slomka, like just how much he stands out. Even during a time where you think he's not doing much, he's still standing out and so different than anything else they got going on at that time.
Right.
All right. My, what the fuck are we? 61 is a guy who I did not have ranked last time. This is Drew McIntyre.
Oh, nice. I have him at 58. So we're right close.
I mean, he's been great since the return. The NXT run is super good. Yeah. Even some of his early stuff is like fine. He's got the WLC, which is really good. He's just, we just talked about it. Like, and he's a pandemic guy. I get it. And I may not be a fan of it. Don't want to rewatch it per se, but I can appreciate it.
You should rewatch his stuff. Like he's legitimately great for that whole run, but he's good even before that. It's funny. I was watching, Day One the other night, and Madcap Moss, my wife was with me, Nikki was with me for a minute, and Madcap Moss came out, and she's like, who's he fighting? And then Drew McIntyre came out, and she fucking laughed and was like, this guy doesn't have a hope in hell of beating this legitimate man.
He's got the really fun stuff with him and Ziggler against the Shield too.
Oh, it's so good. That's so good. No, he's great. Again, another guy who can move up. I mean, he might be nearing the end of like his main event run, but who knows? We'll see. My 61 is Finn Balor.
I did not have him.
Well, I mean, look, we talked about him on the previous episodes, but I think his NXT run is really great. I love the nuance of having the Fiend as a character. I think he's got a couple of great matches on the main roster. I just think he's a guy that, If you had told me in 2015-16 that they weren't going to build around him going forward, I would have said they were fucking stupid.
Right.
And then they didn't. But he's still great. He's still good. The return to NXT was good. I like the stuff he's doing now.
All right. My 60 was Lashley. We talked about him.
Yeah. My 60 is Matt Hardy. I know you got him higher. Just doesn't climb for me. He dropped one spot from 2017.
I'm at 41. He's up from 49. Loving his 08 stuff that I'm watching now at PTB. Hardy Mark. I love his Matt Hardy V1. Love the original Hardy stuff. He's got the return of WrestleMania 33. I know the broken stuff didn't resonate as well in WWE, but I didn't mind some of the stuff with Bray. I thought it was fine. But to me, that's all icing by that point. I think he's got way enough of a resume. Even the Edge matches I like in 05, even though he gets cucked out of that feud. I love the Unforgiven match. I think the SummerSlam match is really creative and different. And just the Hardy stuff alone to me would have him like pretty high on the list. Plus his Hardy comeback in 06 with the team, tag team stuff that they do. And the bar. Like to me, there's so much him in there. WrestleMania 25, Backlash 09, like with Jeff, like are both great.
Yeah, I guess I just find that
you're wrong. Yeah.
Fuck. My number 59 is Dean Ambrose.
All right, we talked about him.
Yeah.
My 59 Cesaro, up 4 from last time.
He's at 53 for me, but down 8.
Yeah, I feel like he's just another guy that every time he's like a Regal, where every time you think he's going to have his breakthrough, it just doesn't happen. But the bar stuff carries him so much. The Owens match too, I underrated historically. Watching it for War for SummerSlam 15, like I liked it a lot more this time around. But it felt like every time they were about to get behind him, something happened and they pulled back. But the bar was so good. It carries.
I think Cesaro for me is the poster boy for not everybody has to be a world champion.
Yeah.
But the problem is they only push and give time to people who they think are going to be world champions.
Right.
My 58 is Drew. We just talked about him.
Okay. My 58 is, you're going to be happy to hear this, down from number 25 5 years ago, Rick Martel.
Finally came to your senses a little bit.
I dropped him substantially. Look, I don't want to direct people to other shows, but you can go back to our other episodes where we just went in on this conversation. Again, I had a group of guys. They're all coming up here. We're all going to get to them right now. But
right.
A group of guys that I just had high based on, they're a great worker, blah, 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 all the shit we've been talking about all
It's
night.
like you didn't feel bad enough to put them where they should be in the 80s. But
I dropped them a lot. I dropped all these guys like 30 to 25 to 30 spots.
Look, I'm applauding your progress. Look, you know how I am with Canadian wrestlers, all right? I love most of them. I love Rick Martel. I love the model.
Right.
I hate Tony Garea. And potentially the continent of Australia. But I've never been there. I bet it's nice.
That stuff's it's all good. And I mean, I feel like the blindfold match alone should get him high. It's a fucking masterpiece.
He's so good in it too. His body, that match is probably the best body language of any wrestler ever.
Yeah. All right, who's your 58?
58's Drew.
Right. Okay. My 57 we talked about was Ricky Steamboat, down 23 from 34.
My 57 is Ken Patera, up 12. Love the MSGs. Loved watching him. And like I said, I like his face stuff too.
All right. My 56 is Tito Santana.
Oh shit! Did you dropped him?
Down from 33, so 23 spots down.
Well done. I got him higher. I can't believe it. I got him at 47.
Okay. I mean, again, he's similar to Steamboat and these other guys we've talked about. Great tag work, stalwart worker, a lot of classic matches and moments. But yeah, I mean, I told you I was going to drop this ball. Then my next guy is 55 is Greg Valentine, down from 29, right? So I dropped all these three guys. I kept Martel, Steamboat, Tito, and Valentine together because they've always felt similar to me, right, as workers and what they have overall as a resume. So I feel like they deserve to all stick together, but not enough to move them apart from each other. But I kept them grouped from the high 30s into 20s down to the late 50s.
It's funny. Like I have them grouped together too, and it's crazy that I'm going to end up with them higher, them higher than you after all my assholeness. My 56 is my main man Sid. Like I said, I had him at 36 last time, which was probably as insane as he is, but I kept bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, but he's one of my all-time favorites, so he wasn't moving anymore.
All right. Number. So that was my. Well, just give me through your 55. Did you do that? So I had Steamboat, Santana, Valentine at 57.
Yeah, sure.
55.
Okay. I have at 55 Shinsuke Nakamura, up 22 spots.
Okay.
Last time, all we had was the NXT run and then a very brief foray in the main roster. But I think time has proven that they really like him. He's always featured on TV. He's always featured on pay-per-view, always atop the mid card, always over, still good, not as great as he was, but still great. So I think he deserves, he's a guy that in 2017, it's almost crazy that he's even on a list like this. Cause to me, he's still so associated with NJPW.
Right.
But he's had a really decent WWE career.
Okay. My 54, someone I did not have rated last time. That is Sensational Sherry.
Yeah.
We had this exact discussion. I just think she's such a big part of the Randy Savage package. She helps carry that entire run and story. I don't think the Macho King thing works nearly without her. I think she's great with Sean, getting him over initially as a heel. It's such a big part of him rising up the card. And I think she helps legitimize him when he turns. And the DiBiase stuff is good too. Plus her work as a heel is good, as a wrestler in the 80s.
You like her match series with Rockin' Robin?
Oh, it hits every time I see it.
She didn't make my list. I wanted to include her, but there was too many other people I wanted. I'm not going to sit here and preach. I don't know. She just doesn't fit for me. My 54 is Kevin Owens.
Okay.
Down 2 slots.
I had him at 40.
Okay.
And I had him up 10 from 50.
Whoa, that's pretty high, but that's okay.
I just think he's great. I mean, the Austin stuff really rose in my eyes with him.
Yeah,
he carried the feud on his own. Austin really was on TV. He built that thing from scratch and delivered an awesome match. I think it says a lot about him too that he stayed when everyone else was leaving. He had every right to leave, and he looked like he was gonna leave. At the end, he was in the Ambrose mode, but he turned it on. The feud with Zayn is awesome. He's been consistently a highlight of TV. And I know we don't factor this in completely, but he's unproblematic, right? There's no bullshit with him ever. His only down stuff to me is just the Shane Zayn stuff, which is bad in 17-18. But his Ambrose shit before that's really good. The Cena series is awesome. He's got such a great resume.
Yeah, he does. I find there's a few too many instances where he kind of just fades away. Into so he'll be a main eventer for a couple months and then he's just gone, right? And maybe he's another example of not everybody has to be a main eventer. Maybe he'd be better suited, and I think his biggest strength is the really personal stuff, right? And I don't know if they always play to his strengths. He's the guy who came in super hot and cooled off almost immediately, but then up and down. I'll admit the Austin stuff's amazing, but there's just I wish there was a bit more consistency with how they present him on television.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think the Austin thing I rose him quite a bit based on that feud, which I really, really liked. I thought and that main event was fantastic. All right.
My 53?
Yes. No, my 53.
I'll give you mine. Mine's
Superstar Billy Graham. Mine's Superstar Billy Graham.
Mine's Cesaro, because we already talked about him. I got Billy Graham at 48, so a bit higher.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just a great character, some big time matches. You always hear it ahead of his time, blah, blah, blah. But he was awesome in his time.
Of course. 52, Kevin Nash.
Okay, we talked about him. My 52 is Ted DiBiase, down from 31. We got into him. Just complete disappointment across the board.
Yeah. Probably disappoints his children, too.
Sincerely.
My 51, probably disappointed his child by dying, and that was Mr. Perfect.
Oh, I have him at 45. He's down 4. I find of all the guys that were disappointing, he's the least disappointing. I still think he delivers some really good stuff. And he's in bigger storylines, I think, consistently too. And he's got the Brett matches, which are great. So I feel like he's such a big part of Flair in 92. I think that's got to count. So I think of the DiBiase grouping that we Rude, I think he's the consistently still better than them.
I would agree. I dropped him 20 spots. I had him at 31 last time.
Right.
which I guess was way too high. But yeah, no, I think you're right. Of the disappointing guys, he's the least disappointing.
Right.
Congrats, Kurt.
All right. My 51 is Edge, down from 35.
Fuck, I love it. I love it.
He has tumbled a lot for me. I was always a big Edge and Christian fan, but the more I see, like, his 07, 08 stuff does not hold up to me at all.
No.
Those matches with Taker have great finishes, but the bulk of them are boring. I actually kind of get a little disappointed when he pops up when I'm watching this 08, 09 stuff. He's consistently overpushed during that time. His return has not been great, outside of the Rumble surprise moment. So, you know, I didn't mind him with the Judgment Day stuff, but then they booted him out of that so quickly. So I just think, yeah, he's disappointing to me. He's severely below Christian for me.
How do you feel about his overacting?
It's a lot.
Because that's something that kills his match. Like that, like his neck. I'm hurting my neck. Like, how does he do that to his neck?
Yeah, he's a guy that works best in spurts.
Right.
Even within matches, like he has like a great 5 minutes out of 25, you know. And his garbage stuff is really good, but he doesn't have a lot of great non-garbage matches.
No, and now he's cast as the wrestler.
Right, which is
he's miscast.
He should be cast as a wrestler, but it should be Randy the Ram, not Ric Flair that he is. You know.
Yes, exactly. I have him a bit higher. I have him at 43, dropped 10 spots, but yeah, he's back there.
Right.
That was your 50, right?
No, 51.
Okay, 51. So my 50 is Scott Hall, who moved up 11 spots. Oh, no, he moved up 1 spot. Sorry.
I'm at 43. Moved down 1 for me, but pretty much even.
So similar. I find he's actually quite similar to Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, I have them two apart from Perfect.
Yeah, but I mean, even in the way their careers kind of unfolded, it's like you expect, he's a great worker, but a lot of the times it falls a bit short. But then I think where Razor has that Perfect doesn't, he's got a bigger cadre of great matches.
Yeah.
And he's got the all-time stuff with Sean.
Yep.
And all-time stuff with Brett.
All right. My 50 was not rated last time, so she moved up quite a lot, and that is Becky Lynch. I think when we did this list last time, she hadn't really broken out yet.
Nope.
She had some very good stuff. She really broke out at the end of that year, right? Or into 18, right? Is when 18, she kind of really started to bust out. Main event of, first woman to main event WrestleMania. The man stuff was super over. I found her not as, we talked about this, I found her not as interesting since her return. I think maybe she'll figure it out now, but I really didn't like Big Time Bex. I thought that was like an overreach, just trying to mimic Conor McGregor and like whatever the fuck she had going on. Like, it didn't really resonate for me. But still great in the ring, still really hits with the crowd. She just has like an elite, 2-year run or whatever.
Yeah, I have her at 41. She didn't rank on my list either, but yeah, 41's a crazy debut for a list like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's how elite her run was after that.
Yeah, it just once she won that title, I think there was some shine knocked off of her.
Right.
In a lot of ways, I kind of Stone Cold Steve Austin was just a transcendent character, right? But I found he always worked best as the chaser, and I think Becky Lynch kind of does too.
Well, they have a similar character. It's not surprising. Like her best character, right, was like a rebel and brawler and all this other stuff. So
now she just wears sunglasses
at night. Who's your 49?
49, Owen Hart, dropping 26 slots from number 23.
I'm at 44, down 6.
Yeah.
We talked about it both here in our Wrestling War Zone. I think he's overrated. I think he's like a DiBiase. Like I want to rank him higher, but when I watch it, I'm like, where is it? And he's a guy that I expect to carry Raw in 96. They don't have many workers, but then he goes out there and he rolls out 2.25, 2.5 consistently. His best stuff is with Brett. Other than that, like what's his great match that's not with Bret Hart in 1994?
Even when he gets into with Sean, there's something missing.
And your House 6 match is fine. His other best match without Brett, I would say, is Bulldog on the European final.
Savio Vega, SummerSlam 96.
And then Austin at SummerSlam's great.
Do you have Savio Vega coming up on your list, by the way?
He's on the reverse.
Because I want to scream. All
right. Sorry. He's on my upside down list. All right, where are we at? My 49?
That was my 49. But look,
All right.
I think Owen Hart is good enough to kind of breach into this top half. And it's all on the Brett stuff. But yes, he's overrated because he died.
Yeah. Except back end's not good either. Like, I mean, he doesn't have anything really. His last great match to me is like the Lions Den.
Enough is enough.
All right, my 49 is up 42 spots from 91.
Oh, shit.
And it's Bailey.
Oh, nice.
So, again, one of the stalwarts of the pandemic era, but she was great before that. She's been the best part of Damage Control probably since she's returned. Yeah, great worker. It is an elite face and heel.
Yeah, she's got the most, I think. We're talking about this with Ryan Gray the other day. She's got the most versatility, I think, of all of the horsewomen.
Yeah.
She's capable of doing anything. I have her at 39, which is 10 spots ahead of where I had her in 2017. I think her and Sasha have the greatest women's match of all time. And on the back of that match is how we get to where we are today with the women.
Yeah.
I love Bailey. I think she's so good. She's clearly the number 4 of the horsewomen in the company's eyes. But I think in mine, she's probably closer to 2.
Yeah. I mean, she's third of the 4 on my list, but
Me too.
The other 2 are a bit higher. All right. Who is your 48?
Superstar Billy Graham.
Baby. My 48's X-Pac, who we talked about.
Right. My 47 is Tito Santana that we talked about.
Okay. My 47 is Seth freaking Rollins.
Oh, God, it's going to hurt. I have him at fucking 36.
Wow. Yeah.
I know. Up 20 spots.
I mean, that's good. I mean, for me, he's up 33. I had him at 80 last time. So it tells you the hay he's made. He's got consistently great matches. I think he's actually gone so far overrated that he's underrated again now. Like about how consistently he is. The Road series you talked about it.
Oh, it's so good.
Was excellent. The Cena matches are great. You know, he gets stuck with some stupid shit at times, right? That hurts. But I don't know.
They can't figure out his character.
Right.
They don't know, and maybe it's because he's not a good character guy. So they've got him in all these weird pockets, right? Like he's an architect, he's a visionary, he's the Kingslayer. And I think that's a testament to how bad he is as a character.
Yeah.
But he's great in the Shield. Like you said, consistently has great matches. As a character, he makes me not want to watch the show.
Right.
But I end up getting sucked into his matches, which is crazy.
I think he's just that good in the ring. It's like no matter what, he's, you know, even right down to WrestleMania 34, it's arguably one of the best matches on the card, or that opening 3-way.
Oh, him, Balor and Miz? Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, which is great. All right. My 46 is up 30 spots. I'm sorry, did you do 47?
Tito.
Okay.
Chico.
My 46 up 30 spots from last time, Sami Zayn.
Oh, nice. I mean, I got him at 33. He's higher.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely underrated him severely last time, for sure.
Well, you weren't really familiar with the NXT run.
Yeah. So I've gotten a little bit more of that, but he's been awesome since. Like the Johnny Knoxville match was like one of my favorite live matches I've seen. He was phenomenal in that match. Yeah. And he's been great with the Bloodline stuff. I think he's fantastic. I don't think that storyline would be nearly as compelling without him in it over the last like 6 months or so.
No, I'm on board. I'm a big Sami Zayn mark. And I think when you and Marcus finally go back and watch the first year of NXT, I think he's going to move up your list.
Yeah.
Because he's the last great true white meat babyface. And the way they culminate that babyface rise, I can't see it working with anyone else. And it's all about how great he is.
Yep. All right. Who is your 46?
Okay, well, 47 was Tito Santana. 46 is Greg Valentine.
Okay.
Dropping 5 spots.
All right, my 45 is Mr. Perfect. My 44 is Owen Hart. My 43 is Scott Hall. We talked about all of them.
Okay, so my 45 is Dolph Ziggler, right ahead of Greg Valentine. I mean, they're really, I think if you look at them in terms of where they were on the card and what they've done on the card, they are quite similar. They're mid-carders who had cups of coffee with the main event. I just find Ziggler's main event stuff ended up being more meaningful and more interesting. And I think Ziggler is kind of, when he's at his best, is an underrated, great little worker. I think he's, especially as a face, I think he's really great at working from underneath as a face. Like that match, if you want to really like see what Ziggler's about, go back and watch the 2013 Payback match with Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, that's an awesome match. I mean, that's one of his best.
But it's his performance. Like he's so good at like selling the concussion. He's so good at selling the determination. Like I just want that character all the time.
Right, but that's my problem. Is too many lulls in there.
Yeah, but again, I think that's booking. Like,
all right. Well, I mean, a lot of these guys are affected by booking.
Oh, of course. But I mean, like the difference is that like I'd rather watch a low Dolph Ziggler match than a low Tito Santana match.
Right.
Because Tito Santana, when it's a lull, he's jobbing. Right. Like, yes, he's a victim of booking also, but it's like they don't allow him the space in the match to show what he can do. Whereas Ziggler's almost always put in the position to show at least what he can do.
Yeah. All right. Who's your 43?
My 44 first is Kofi Kingston.
Okay. I have him at 35 and he's up 54 spots for me.
He's up 34 for me.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about New Day earlier, obviously a major integral part, plus the IC run, which is great. All the spots, Money in the Bank, Rumble are all memorable. That WrestleMania 35, winning the world title from Daniel Bryan was a great story and moment for him.
Diminishing returns after 35.
Yeah, but
they didn't know what to do. Like,
right. But that's already a 14-year run for him of like really high level stuff.
Yeah.
And New Day's still been good since, so it's not like it's been garbage.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, he's a top. If you would have said 5 or even 10 years ago, this guy's gonna be a top 35 all timer. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, like even in stupid little matches, like at I think it's Extreme Rules 2011, he fights Sheamus, right. And it's like an innocuous match, but it's great. Yeah. Like like he just pops out these things, and we forget about it because it's so long ago.
Jamaican me crazy.
Your 44
was Owen.
Oh, my 43 was Edge.
Okay, mine was Scott Hall. My 42 is down 5 spots from last time, and that is the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Oh, he's higher for me. I have him at 24. My 42, and this is probably going to be the inverse. My 42 is Christian, up 7 spots.
Yeah, he's at 28 for me, which is exactly where I had him last time. I think he's one of my few outside like the top few that didn't move at all. I love Christian. I think his resume is fantastic. He's got all the Edge and Christian stuff. Then he's also got all of the Randy Orton series, which is elite. He's got the Del Rio series, which is really good.
Yeah.
Even the stuff like with Swagger, really just like little things like that really hit. He's got all the Money in the Banks, which he's great in. He's in a bunch of those. I love his heel run, like in 05. I think he's really good. He was getting super over during that time period. The only time he really stinks is post Edge and Christian with the crying and all that stuff. But even the team with Storm is like fine. The feud with Booker is fine. Like he's always consistently just very good and then his peak stuff is great.
Yeah, I would say that like the post Edge and Christian breakup until the Chris Jericho stuff for me is the weakest part of his resume.
Right.
That's the parts that if I watch those, I kind of want to knock him off the list. Like I hate how he looks. I find that like, you're right. His feud with Booker's fine. It's good, but it's one of those ones that feels like it should be better, but maybe that's on Booker. Maybe that's not on Christian. Or maybe Christian just hadn't figured out how to put it all together yet in terms of like,
right. I think that comes a little bit later. I think to that point, he was still just a really good tag worker.
Yeah.
And I think he does what some guys don't do later, right? Or even before that, is that he does figure it out eventually how to work as a singles and become a star. Maybe it took going to TNA to really put it together. But when he comes back from TNA from that run, he feels like a star and he has a series of star level performances.
And I can't say enough good things about that Orton series.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Your 42?
My 42 is Flair. My 41 is Matt Hardy. We talked about him. He moved up 8 for me.
My 41 is Becky Lynch.
Okay. My 40 was Owens. We talked about him. And my 39 is Pat Patterson, who's up 9. I know he's not on your list, but
no,
we kind of talked about it when we mentioned how you dropped him.
Yeah. My 40 is the Sheik. My 39 is Bailey.
Okay. My 38, who I'm guessing you have higher, but we could talk about him if you want. He's down 8 for me. That's Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, he's still inside the top 40. I just think he misses a lot. He's similar to DiBiase. He's got better stuff, but some of those blow-offs don't hit all the time. But I just find he's a better promo. His storylines are more engaging. He's more over with the crowd. I mean, a top 38 run for a guy that was never world champion that really doesn't have as long of a run as you would think he did. Still pretty good.
So I had him at 28. I would have had him lower, but then when I went back and looked at him for the wrestler that was, which is in the archives, I came to the realization that like he's probably the best, maybe the best feud guy they've ever had. Every feud was so personal. Every feud built on the last one. It all kind of works together. It's a lot like Randy Savage. He's like a lesser Randy Savage with that, but it's still there, and like, I just find that at his peak, he's legitimately one of the single greatest performers. Like that whole sequence with the fucking snake and biting Savage, not just for the insanity of what it is, but just how he acts in that is like pure brilliance. Yeah. Like there's that shot of the snake with him kind of behind it smiling. Like, I mean, you don't get that with a lesser performer.
No.
And I really just think those feuds are so important, because if you didn't like Hogan, you could get behind this dark motherfucker who carried snakes and maybe murdered people and broke their necks, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, and then it was always so personal. It was like Rick Rude's trying to bang his wife, so he's going to kill him. DiBiase tries to murder him with money. Rick Martel tries to blind him. His pet gets killed, so he loses his mind. No, it
all makes sense. He's one of the few guys whose entire career arc is like a story, and that's why he does sync up with Savage. Or Savage is the same way. Their whole run is a story that makes sense and evolves over the years, and you can see why everything builds on the X. And I think he's like the dark heavy metal to like the pop rock and roll of Hogan, right? So if you were that kid who wasn't into the glam rock of the 80s, but you were more into like the death metal or whatever else, like you're going to be into Jake over him, right? Like the horror movie to like the big, action movies, right? Like that was him to the Hogan. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, just the fact that he's bringing the snake to the ring too, like,
right.
It's just a really cool, unique package. On top, and it's weird, he's living in a cartoon world. He's kind of a cartoon character because he's carrying a snake around in a giant bag, right? He's wearing snakes on his tights. But then he's this like grounded, real psychopath.
Yeah, agreed.
My 38, one slot ahead of Bailey is Sasha Banks, up 30 spots.
I have her at 32, up 60 spots from 92.
Jesus Christ.
I just had her super low last time. I mean, they've had a great 5 years. I mean, all of them. Like in 17, they were just getting there, right? Like since then, they've made evented manias. They've had their own rumbles where they've been great in. They've become superstars, like all of them during this time period. And she made evented a mania against, put over Bianca in a great match.
Yep. And I mean, look, like whenever they call on her to be a challenger, like I love the feud with Bailey and the Hell in a Cell with Bailey. I love the feud with her and Becky Lynch in I think it's a Hell in a Cell with Becky Lynch also. Yeah. I love when they throw her in there with Ronda Rousey. Like I think that's a really underrated little match. And then I've got nothing but great things to say about her NXT series with Bailey. So and I mean now she's becoming
matches. Like the best variants. Like she can do the Hell, they do the Cell, do like the Brawl. Like I think she's like the best at that, varying up her matches.
I think too, she might be the best of the horsewomen at incorporating her character into the matches.
Right.
So what I mean by that is like Becky Lynch, whenever like something goes wrong, there's always the like this the wide eyes and the touching her mouth, like a complete lunatic. But like that character hasn't changed depending if she's the man, if she's this or she's that. Sasha Banks as a heel is fucking mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like her pulling that girl's bonnet off in NXT and throwing it and like laughing in her face as she cried. Like that's some pretty top level heel stuff. And she has that edge that the other three don't really have, I feel.
All right. My 37 up 14 spots from 51 is Sheamus.
I have it at 30.
Yeah. I mean, he's awesome. We talked about the bar. I think he's definitely, I think he was at a tipping point. I had him at 51 right in the middle in 2017. And he's just continued to grow. Even something as stupid as a Brawling Brutes. They got fucking Ridge Holland, who murdered Big E, and
How is he
Pete
not
Dunne,
fired?
called Butch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he's making it work because he's so good. It like still resonates. So I think he's a guy that could have been easily typecast as Triple H's buddy, kind of stiff in the ring. But what does he do besides deliver bangers? Like the Walter matches on one end, the Danny Bryan matches on the other end of his career, right? And a bunch of good shit in between. So
yeah, he might be the most underrated worker of all time.
100%. Like I still think there are people that don't get it.
He's so freaking good. I think he might be hurt by just not having the best character.
Right.
It's like I think they tried too hard with him in 2012. I don't know if you remember when he turned, but like Mark Henry was like running through everybody. Like, who's going to stop him? And Sheamus is just like, I'll fight him.
Yeah.
And that turned him face. And that was all we needed. We just needed this tough Irish motherfucker to go out and brutalize people. And when it went beyond that, he became, oh, okay, Bertie. Oh, come at me, Bertie. When he's talking to Alberto Del Rio, like, Jesus fucking Christ. So yeah, like him as a less is more in terms of character, but there's no one now that I'd rather see in the ring than Sheamus.
Right, who's your 37?
Rey Mysterio.
Okay. I have him at 31, down from 19 last time.
Down 19 spots for me.
Okay. Yeah. I had him a high again. You want to say it's a Will factor? He's great. He's still great, right? But he does have some down stuff.
Will had him number 1.
I know, Will. Obviously still a great worker. I mean, tons of big time matches and feuds. He does have some down stretches in there, but I mean, he still can get it done, like today,
Yeah, like obviously an elite level worker, right? I don't think he's had an elite or he's right on the cusp of an elite level career,
right,
with WWF.
Yeah,
I think he has an elite
all
level.
in. He's top. Yeah.
Oh yeah. If you're considering everything, he's maybe top 5. But just WWF, I think he's a bit past his prime at that point.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing because he's still great. I love the angle stuff early. I think he's always great in the ring, but kind of a bomb on top, maybe pushed a bit beyond where he should be. And I think that ends up hurting him. I think if he was more in his niche, I think he'd have a way better career with a whole slew of greater matches. He's not going to great matches out of Kane, right? But he's
they didn't
have
like some of the talent either, or they didn't care enough about some of the talent that could have had those matches with him during that time. Like it's almost like this empty cruiserweight run in 05, 06, 07, 08, where it's like they don't have guys to work them, like versus like if he was in his prime, maybe a little bit later.
He's fighting Chavo every SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's enough. Enough of Chavo.
But I mean, they had they had them. They had Tajiri, they had Jamie Noble, they had what's his name?
And he has great matches with them. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul London. Like they just didn't care about the cruiserweight division. And I think not caring about the cruiserweight division is easy to do when you have Rey Mysterio.
Right.
Because you don't have to build it up. You just say, well, look, Rey's there and he's great. So let's just let him go.
All right. My 36 is up 11 spots from last time. That's the British Bulldog.
Oh, I have him at 34, up 10 spots.
Yeah. I mean, loads of tag stuff, great singles run, Heart Foundation, great in the ring, heel face, connection with the crowd. And right down to the Warlord series. Like he's got that really fun match. You'll get there, Undertaker at MSG. I think it's a 91. It's actually sneaky good. So he's got some really good stuff.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to finish as high. Like I thought 43 was really high in 2017. But then when I started really putting him up against guys, I'm like, whoa, like he's really got a lot in the bank. He's there a long time. And there's really not a lot of bad.
All right, who's your 36?
Seth Rollins.
Okay, we talked about him quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think we're good there. My 35, we just talked about Kofi Kingston, moved up 54 spots.
My 35 is Rob Van Dam.
He's my 34, up 9.
Yeah, mine, he's down 1, so I had him 34 last time. I remember when Will was talking about Rey Mysterio, and the points he was making was he's the best TV worker of all time. I think Rob Van Dam should be in that conversation. Like his moves were just he like his song is one of a kind, but it's exactly true.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody. How does he take the DDT on his head?
It's ridiculous. And even when he comes back, he's still great. Every time he comes back, like he still is the same fucking guy. Like it's ridiculous. And even like, I mean, I'm watching his ECW runs making me appreciate him even more. Like his
So
97
good
ECW is amazing. He just resonates. Everything hits his I'm always happy to see him come out. I'm never like, oh, Rob Van Dam match. I'm like, oh
No,
yeah, fuck yeah, Rob Van Dam match. Like when he shows up, I'm excited because it's gonna be clunky and messy and sloppy and fun.
someone might get a black eye, and that 01 run is
Elite.
freaking incredible.
Yeah,
Like
it's elite.
that Jeff Hardy match at Invasion is criminally underrated.
Yeah.
The way he comes out and in what is it, 15 minutes, kind of takes over the whole promotion for the next 6 months.
I think he's one guy that really got hurt by WCW closing. As big of a star as he is in WWF, I think he would have been like the guy in WCW because there was such a dearth of talent.
They
I
made
think
Lance Storm. They made Lance Storm the guy.
He would have naturally risen. I think there's a case to be made for him that he should have went there when everyone else was going there, like in 99, 2000. I think he could have maybe really broke through. And then he might have been even more valued by WWF if he came from there. Like Benoit and those guys were.
You think? Because I wonder, because they hate WCW. They didn't hate ECW.
I know, but it would have felt like maybe we can show you what we could have done. I mean, he still gets a great run. It was just bad timing. Just bad timing because the Austin and Rock, like there was such top of mind. It was like, I mean, look, he's coming in when they're loaded with these megastars in this insane run. So,
but he's still. You're right, but they're loaded with these megastars. But he's still
super over. Yeah,
he's as over as any of them. It's the Triple H return that fucks him.
Right. Yeah.
Because if that isn't slotted for WrestleMania 18, I mean, how do you not do Rob Van Dam?
Yeah.
Based on the 2001 run.
They could have just kept 2 titles. They had it instead of doing the Undisputed and still had him win.
Yeah.
All right. So my 34 is RVD. Who's your 34?
Davey.
All right. 33 for me, up 3 is Bobby the Brain Heenan. Talked about it a bit. I just think he's the greatest manager of all time. He bumps, he works. We talked a little bit about maybe factor in some of the commentary and the work that they do there. Big part, Ric Flair getting over as a super heel. You could argue he's actually Hogan's feud for like 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah, I think that's your best. That's the best. That's one of the best arguments I've ever heard you make was when you described how he was the primary antagonist for Hogan. It's in the archives, and I don't want to keep referencing back, but like it was legitimately a great argument that was very
from 86 to 88. He's Hogan's top foe. He's the kingpin, right? Like, so he may be sending guys out, but he's the guy pulling the strings. And then he's like Warriors feud from 88 to like 90. Like, you know, and then he's Boss Man's feud. Like he drives those feuds. Those feuds are with Bobby Heenan, not with guys in his stable, right? Like they're with Bobby Heenan, which is what makes it so great. So, all right, who's your 33?
33, Sami Zayn.
Okay.
I mean, all-time great face, all-time. He keeps going. He's moving up this list.
My 32 is Sasha. My 31 is Ray. We talked about both of them.
Okay, so my 32, down 12 spots, is Eddie Guerrero.
Okay.
That, again, I think I love Eddie Guerrero. I just think that I just struggle to at this point, from this point on, it's like I just struggle to put him ahead of guys that I have ahead of him, which is going to sound insane when I tell you that my 31 is Triple H.
So my 30 is Triple H. I moved him up 10 from his customary 40 spot. His 08 has really won me over. I think he's actually overlooked for that run. I think he was really over as a face. I think he was actually kind of selfless as well during that run. And that WrestleMania
let's not go crazy.
He's not bad in that run. He puts guys over. He's doing different things. The WrestleMania 25 match isn't as bad as you think. It's just the wrong match at the wrong time. I think of all his egregious main events, it's maybe the least egregious, honestly. That and Jericho are probably the least. I have Eddie at 27, so I moved him down 9 from 18 based on conversations we had. I think he's still great. I think he belongs ahead of Ray. I had him ahead of Ray last time too, but I think he belongs. I think he's a better version of Ray because I think he's got the more emotional connection and storylines. Like we talked about Jake and Savage. I think he's like their emotional great grandson. I just think he doesn't have the run because he passes away. Right? If he sticks around and is around for another 10 years, I think he's a guy that's always around and having like he gets pulled into these stories and comes back as a legend and does different stuff that would have hit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I buy it. I buy it 100%. I mean, it feels dirty putting Triple H ahead of him, but I think I agree with you that like the 08 run is quite good. Wish he would have put over Jeff Hardy a little earlier than he did.
Right.
Like I think it's the October show where they fight.
Yeah, that could have been the one.
And it's a
Because
legit
then
great.
Edge gets in the mix.
Yeah, and
But
it's
you know what?
legit,
Yeah, God, I'm sorry.
well, I was just gonna say it's a legit great match as it is with Hardy and Triple H, but like I don't know, it just felt like they were so ready for Jeff Hardy then.
I know. The Edge thing doesn't hurt too bad because if you watch that whole run, he's just as involved with Edge as Triple H, right? So it's like him beating both of them to finally win wasn't like the worst thing, honestly.
But he pins Edge, right?
Yeah, he pins Edge, which is
Of course he does.
still fine. I know, but like in the construct of watching that year, it's again like some of the least egregious Triple H stuff because he is putting him. I don't know.
Yeah, but of course it's the least egregious because you're comparing it to all this other bullshit,
I know,
right?
I know.
Like it's
So
like saying like Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't that bad compared to Stalin.
All right, I have Triple H at 30. We talked about that, and I have Jeff Hardy at 29. Down 2, but still super high. Like still a mega star. All the stuff we talked about with Matt at a higher level.
I have him
plus
27.
the 08-09.
So I have him at 27, which is exactly where he was in 2017.
Yeah.
Just something incredible about him. And I think that all the guys, Edge, Christian, the Hardys, the Dudleys, they get, all the credit in the world for that great series of matches. And I don't just mean the TLCs, like they have a bunch of tag matches too that are incredible, but I don't think any of that is nearly as good without Jeff Hardy.
No.
And I think you could pull other pieces out, and I think you could pull Edge out, put someone else in his place, and it would still be good. I think Jeff Hardy is that lock that
he's got the Taker match, he's got the RVD matches, so he's got a lot. All right, so who's your 30?
My 30 is Sheamus.
Okay, we talked about him. Who's your 29?
29 is up 8 slots, and that is Sergeant Slaughter.
Okay, I have him at 25. I had him down 1 from last time.
Okay. Totally rose on my list because of the MSGs. 84, he's like the hottest act in the world. All-time great match with the Sheik. He's great as a heel before that. I love the series with Backlund. And I like the Desert Storm stuff. I mean, I'm Canadian, so I didn't give a fuck.
His 91 his 91's great. Like all the Hogan stuff is really good. They just botched SummerSlam.
Yeah.
If they don't do that, he's fine. And then even the commissioner stuff, he's pretty good. He's a big part of getting Austin over, feuding with DX. He's like the DX's first real feud outside of Brett. You know what I mean? So like that's a big part of getting them established. So no, he's a talker, works as a super face, as a super heel. He's definitely one of them. He's a top 25 for me.
It's a G.I. Joe.
Yeah. All right, my 28 is Christian. We talked about him. I had him dead even as last time. My 27 was Guerrero. What do you got in those spots?
My 28 is Jake, and my 27 is Jeff Hardy.
Okay, we talked about both of them. 26 we have not talked about yet. That is Charlotte Flair, up from 54. So my top-rated female worker.
She is also my top-rated female worker, up 42 slots. 43 slots. I have her at number 20. She is in my top 20. And I think she is as integral to the women's division as almost any wrestler has ever been for the company. Yep. And what I mean by that is like without Hogan, the WWF doesn't exist, right? Without Austin, it dies to WCW. I think without Charlotte, the women's ends up just still being the Bellas and Kelly. And I think she's such a game changer. She's so good. She is so fucking good. She's so legitimate. Every part of her just screams superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yes, I get upset when I see the flashes of her father in her face. He's like, I'm like, oh wow, she's pretty hot. Oh no, wait a minute. That's Ric Flair, but I don't know, man. Like she's a legitimate great worker with no asterisks.
Yeah. None.
Yeah.
None. Yeah. She's put on matches as good as anyone in company history.
And it's funny. It's crazy that she's the highest ranked, but I still think Bayley and Sasha have her beat for best match.
Right.
But she's just got so much volume. And I was talking to, I think it was Ryan. He was kind of comparing her to Cena. But I feel that
she doesn't have the bat of Cena.
No. And she has none of the low. And she always delivers.
Yeah.
Always. Like Cena doesn't always deliver. He's got probably the most 4-star matches ever, but he doesn't always deliver.
She's more like Warrior.
She's got the hair, the fucking hair.
All right, my 25 was Slaughter.
Yeah. My 26, we didn't do my 26, which is AJ Styles.
Okay, I am at 24, down 2.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I kept thinking, because he only moved up 2 slots from 2017, and he's someone who I assumed would move up even more.
Disappointing. I think in 17, I would have thought, oh, this guy will be top 15 at least.
Top 10, maybe.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's such a bratty thing to say, but he's one of the most disappointing guys ever for me.
Yep.
And I love his work.
Yeah.
It's just,
no, I love him.
Yeah.
But it's just disappointment. It's just one of the, he's almost like a modern day of like Rude and those guys at this point where, but he's also old. Like he didn't get in until he was almost 40, right? It's like he just came in late. So it's amazing he had what he had, honestly, early on. And now he's in maintenance mode, right? He just kind of churns out really good matches consistently. He's never really disappointing. But you wanted like those 5 stars. That's what you thought you get.
Well, the scale is also completely unfair for him.
Correct.
Like with Ted DiBiase, I'm like, if he could have a 3.5 star match, I'd be fucking thrilled. Whereas with AJ, it's like, oh, it's not 4 stars.
Right. All right. So that was who's your 25?
26. 25 is Batista.
All right. I have him at 22, up 4.
Up
megastar, superstar. Even the stuff I thought was historically not great has held up much better than I thought. Like his 07, his 08. I love him in 08. He's awesome despite all the title matches. Like he just delivers every time. And I thought that was like a down year for him, but it really isn't. Like he's consistently good. Outside of the stupid Umaga match at Mania, I find him to be an enjoyable piece of every card, and his heel turn's great. I think his return is underrated. His worst match is his last one, and who can blame him at that point? I mean, he got sucked into the Triple H vanity vortex.
Yeah. We're pulling nose rings out of his nose and he can't even step in the ring. He's tripping and falling, right? So
yeah, he's just cooked by that point.
How excited could he be? Why did he want that match in a storyline? Like, why did he come? He already defeated that guy like a billion times.
Right. Yeah.
So stupid. Fuck Triple H. You're 24.
All right. My 24, talk about AJ Styles. My 23.
I have a 24 too, by the way.
Oh, he's your 24.
Ric Flair.
Okay. You want to talk about him? I mean, he's Flair.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to say is that if you're of the mind that he's no good post 2001,
you're wrong.
And I'm not saying you're that, but go back and watch it. Like he's not Ric Flair from 1992, but I mean, he's still putting out classics.
Yeah.
He's still a great character. He's still a fine worker.
Triple H series is great. Shawn match is great at the end.
When I rewatched that cage match from Taboo Tuesday, I was like, it has to be 5. Like it was that good and that intense. And that run is 7 years.
Yeah.
It's a 7-year run. So it's not nothing.
Yeah, Edge stuff is good. Yeah, no, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. No, he's one of the best all time. I mean, I'm probably still a little low on him. I mean, what did I have him at? 42. So yeah.
Thousands.
He's great. All right. My 23 is up from 55 last time. That's Randy Orton.
Ooh, I have him at 17.
Yeah, he's
24.
He's sneaky great. I think he's a guy where like his reputation has just been so beaten down, but it's like you're missing all the great stuff that he has. It's consistent.
Tim thinks we're too low. Fuck, he's good. I don't know, man. I didn't appreciate him the first time around. Like
I think he got lumped in with the we're sick of Cena, we're sick of Orton, we're sick of it. And there's that little mini stretch in like 13, 14 where everyone wants Bryan and he's in the way. But fuck, I mean, he's coming off the Christian style. You know what I mean? Like it's like what everything is consistently so good.
Yeah. And even now, he's great now.
Oh yeah.
Like he's just become this guy who like everybody almost universally loves, consistently puts out great matches, great at telling stories for the most part, great at slithering like a snake.
He looks like he's a fucking snake.
He looks like a fucking snake.
His 08 is elite. 07, 08 into 09 is just like unbelievable character work, in-ring work. His 04 or 05 was really good, even despite the botched push. His rise up the card is so good. And then everything else is fucking gravy after that. Like, I mean, he's got some of the stuff with Brian is great. Like, he's just got so much good stuff.
Did you just do his pose? Like you were so excited about him? Like, um, yeah, no, great stuff. I'm not a fan of the current mustache, but that's my biggest.
I hope he's
criticism
not
of him.
done. He deserves like a final run. Hopefully he's not cooked.
My only issue with him at all is I am not a fan of any of the Cena matches.
Right.
And he spends a lot of time with Cena.
Yeah, we're getting at 09 and PTB, so I'm curious to see how that goes.
Right.
All right, who's your 23?
The Ultimate Warrior.
I cannot believe I have him higher than you. I have him at 21. He's up 2 for me. Big
came down
match
1.
superstar. Always delivers in the big spots. Captivating character. I think he's underrated because people just think he was just a bum who couldn't work, but he's not carried in those matches.
Nope.
He carries Rick Rude. He is toe-to-toe with Hogan at WrestleMania. His match with Savage, to me, is a top 2 all time.
Yeah,
I love his SummerSlam 92 match. Honky.
5 stars.
You know, it's like his real only kind of stinker on a big show is Rude at SummerSlam 90, but even that's fine.
It's not even a stinker.
It's just fine.
I feel I have that at like 3 stars. You know, like
Yeah.
I think it's his return that kind of hurts him a little bit, but even then, it's short. You get him.
WrestleMania 8, such a good moment.
I know, and WrestleMania 12 is such a good fucking moment.
And that return's not even that bad. He's fine in that stuff. Like it's really not that bad.
It's the Goldust match. It's the Goldust.
And even that's like whatever. I mean, Goldust had injured. You write it off. It's like, you know, they had to do a fuck fest because Goldust got hurt. It's like whatever.
Could have just done anything else. But
the build to that was good. It was fine on TV.
I like the Lawler match actually. I think it's fun. I think Lawler's quite good in it. Oh, when he puts those 2 fucking knees in Triple H's chest, puts his arm in the air. Oh, it's the fucking best.
It's all gravy at that point anyway.
You're never gonna get that catharsis on Triple H again.
The Andre stuff is fun.
Oh yeah, that's great.
No, he's up there. Him and Batista are similar to me. I have them back to back. I have Batista 22, Ultimate Warrior 21. To me, they're like versions of each other. Batista's got the longer run, but Warrior's like peak is insane. So like the two of them feel like they fit together. Yes, Jenny, it is a Warrior Love Fest in 2022. Plus the fact that he died after he returned. Like I feel like that's underrated in history. Like this dude was gone for like a pariah for 20 years. Finally returns, has a big moment, and then dies the next day. Like it's fucking insane.
His heart explodes.
It's the most insane thing in wrestling history. This fucking guy literally died the day after. He's like, "This is the end."
And he's talking about it being the end.
Yeah, that's what Marcus is saying. Like it's great. He called his own shot. Like it's fucking nuts. It's
one day everyone will breathe their last breath. And
tomorrow for me. Like, it was the most surreal moment ever when Triple H tweeted like, "Rest in peace, Ultimate Warrior." It's like, wait a minute, what? Like I couldn't even process what just happened. He was just on Raw like the day before.
He's wearing a mask instead of paint. We all rushed to our phones to be like, wait a minute, he's dead.
Right, it was insane. It was just insane. All right, who's your 22 and 21?
22, Chris Jericho.
All right, I have him at 18, down 2.
I
mean,
6 for me.
Like, what are we missing? Like, I just watched the Legends match at WrestleMania 25. Is awesome. Like, he's just such a great worker. His 08 is just top-notch stuff.
Yeah,
a guy that we just talked about like consistency. Like, right? That's him. Like, he's always consistent. Very few bad things. Maybe not as much great as some of the other folks, but like he's always just right in that 3 to 4 range on everything.
Yeah. And then the constant changing, and then he does go up. Like there is a jump up for him.
Oh yeah, the Sean stuff. I mean, yes, it's not bereft of it. I mean, he's got some down. I think all those returns in the 2010s get like lost at times. Like, all right, the Fandango thing, like the Bray match sucks. Like there's some stuff in there that's kind of shitty, but then he's got some great stuff, like the list of Jericho and like all that stuff toward the end. Yeah, like all that stuff is great. So yeah, I mean, he's Chris Jericho. He's
greatest debut of all time too.
Going towards with the Rock. All right, so he's 18 for me. Who's your 21?
21. Oh God, I don't want to fucking say this because it's about to upset some people. Roman Reigns is 21.
All right, I have him at 20.
Okay,
so he's up 12 for me.
He's up 21 for me.
I mean, I don't know how you deny it at this point. Like,
no, he's great.
Great character run, great in ring. He's really pulled it together. Like he's a guy that was teetering, but even when he was hated, it's an in the moment hatred. When you go back and watch a lot of that stuff, like it's it's still really good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there is a dip in there, like around the Taker match and some of that, where it was almost becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy where everyone hated on him so much he just like became shitty for a bit, but he bounced back post-cancer.
I feel that there's too many instances in that period where he gets lazy in the ring.
Right.
There's a lot. Yes, he had cancer. Okay. Lots of people have fucking cancer. Okay. We don't have to fucking put beads
Not everyone
on
comes
them.
back to have an elite pro wrestling run though after having it.
Well, Mario Lemieux won the scoring title. No,
That's true.
no, I think there's too many instances in that where he's a bit lazy in the ring. Then there's great matches like with AJ Styles. I think it's hard to rank him higher for me though when so much of that run didn't land.
Yeah.
And it's not like it didn't land in the mid card. It didn't land, and the whole promotion was built around it.
Yeah. It does have all the Shield stuff though.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say like 2012, 2014, they fucked it. That's when they fucked up.
Yeah.
We've talked about this ad nauseum, but the idea that like when the Shield broke up, he was a main eventer and the other two weren't for no reason. That fucked him because he didn't have any sort of an organic rise. It just became, well, he's a main eventer now. And now he's doing this and suffering succotash, and he's happy, and he's showing up on NXT and everybody's booing him. And I just wish, man, I hope that the bloodline goes back to the personal stuff.
Right.
Because man, that Jey Uso stuff was so
we may with
fucking
The
good.
Rock. I mean, that could come in.
Yeah. I just feel like the run for me, as great as it's been, it's just left me wanting more.
Right.
Because it's never been as great as that first part.
The matches
for
all
me
still hit for the most part.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's
Him
still
and Cena was great.
Yeah. He's got it figured out now. He's got it figured out.
Right. The Brock match of Mania kind of stunk, but there was the injury. I mean, not no, was it? Yeah, Mania, right? Was the disappointing one.
Yeah. So what I don't like now is that I found when they first started him on this heel run, he was a legitimate tough heel who won by being stronger than everybody else.
Right.
Like he'd pummel you with the forearms until he'd guillotine you and choke you out. And there was no cheating necessary.
Yeah.
I feel now he's veered a bit too much into the typical heel who needs to cheat to win.
Right.
And what made the tribal chief so exciting for me is that, okay, like I legitimately believe that this guy is this tough and could legitimately hurt you.
See, I think the way they're playing it, and maybe it's just not resonating, is that he's still that guy, but he doesn't have to do his own work. Like he's got this family that he's going to have do his dirty work, and he can just get away with it until he needs to. Because like at SummerSlam, he just got it done when he needed to and beat Brock, right? Like, so when he needs to get it done, he gets it done.
Well, the family was there too at SummerSlam.
Yeah, but I feel like it wasn't as direct.
Well, the tractor, well, that was
was
mired
him.
in a tractor.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the Seth Rollins stuff at the beginning of the year. He's got him in that guillotine, and like he's saved because the ref drops Rollins' hand on the ropes.
Right.
And it's like, just let him fucking win.
Yeah.
It's Seth Rollins. He's gonna bounce back. Like,
all right. Anyway. All right. So that's my 20. Who's
my 20 is Charlotte.
Okay, we talked about her. Here we go. My 19. Down from number 5. John Cena. I don't think we need to get into this whole thing. If you go back to our most recent episode of No Holds Barred covering GWE, we spent a ton of time on Cena and why he has dropped actively hurt pushes of certain guys, longer stretches of downtime than you may think, even during the time where he's considered a super worker. I still love the guy. I think he's underrated historically. I think I had him overrated in 2017, almost as part maybe a backlash to like him being considered overrated, right? I think I overreacted a bit. I think top 20 feels better than like a top 5 guy because he does have so much down and does actively hurt a lot of acts. Nexus, Wyatt, Owens, like Rusev, like all those guys he neutered during that time.
Big Cass.
Yeah, Big Cass. So anyway, still a top 20 all time, but closer to Reigns and Warrior Batista to me than top like Hogan, Austin, those guys.
Guess what? Number 19 for me also.
Beautiful.
Down from number 8. And I think it's funny that I have Cena at 19, Charlotte at 20, and Roman at 21, who are arguably the 3 most heavily pushed people ever.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, Cena to me was Cena was like the first time that like the company didn't allow the backlash to actually dictate the company. And Roman was the first big top guy that wasn't organically chosen by the fans.
Right.
And I think it's no surprise that we're in this era where they struggle with baby faces when these are your models.
All right, 18.
Daniel Bryan.
All right, I have him at 11.
All right.
Up 2 from last time.
Down 2 from 7. Down 1 from 17.
He's still awesome. I feel like his hemp rain is like lost to time, but it was like just during like a weird stretch, but he was still great in that run.
Well, it's shorter. It's shorter than you think too, right?
Right.
It's really only 5 months.
Yeah. And he's had some great matches in AEW, but I'll tell you what, I mean, everyone was clamoring for him to leave to get this great, wonderful push and be a top guy. Like, I don't know, it hasn't materialized for me in AEW. Like, I don't think he's getting treated that much differently, besides maybe he gets a chance to go out there and have great matches a little bit more.
But that's the difference,
yeah.
Right? Like, that's the difference. In the WWF, unless you're the top push guys, you're not getting sent out to do those matches.
He could have went to NXT and did it.
It wouldn't have been the same. Like,
I know.
I think there was, I think that the lineup of guys that that is most interesting for him to fight, it has nothing to do with AEW being, like, I mean, him and Kenny Omega, like,
it was time. It was time for him to go.
Yeah. Like, and it's just what it is. But his WWF career is incredible. The Cena match alone is like a top, I don't know. It could be a top 5.
I think I have a top 5.
Yeah.
He's got Wyatt's best singles match.
Yeah, and that's a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, like a 4-star match with him with no gimmicks.
Yeah.
And what super over. I mean, just think of what he did with the crowds, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, look what he did for Kofi.
Yep.
Great match with him too. The match with Punk is great. Like, there's just so many upon. He's in the conversation as best worker of all time in the company.
My 18 was Jericho.
Okay, we talked about him. My 17, once dropping 5 spots from last time, is CM Punk.
He's my 17 as well, down 3.
Maybe the most consistent guy ever in the company in terms of like match output, and at his peak, a truly transcendent superstar that they just didn't go with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's got loads of great matches. Not really too much down. It's just dependent on where he was on the card and what he was given to work with. But even when he's not, like, he still turns out some good stuff, even in those early years, 07, 08, when he's not really super focused.
And legit good at everything.
Oh, yeah.
My 16, which I meant before, it's Randy Orton. Randy Orton 16. It's not 17.
Okay. Kurt Angle's my 16, down just 1. Great worker, tons of great feuds. One of my all-time favorites. Face, heel, does it all, gets over. I think maybe his run's a little short, was a little bit longer. Maybe he climbs a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But still a top end guy for me.
Yeah, I have him 15. So 1 spot after, down 3 spots. I love Kurt Angle. On the short list of my personal favorite guys of all time, which is no surprise considering you and I are the same person. But yeah, just, what can I say? It's Kurt Angle. We know what we're dealing with here.
All right. My 15 is Bob Backlund, down 5 from last time.
So here's your influence, my friend. Bob Backlund is 14 for me.
Okay.
I knocked him down. I had him at 7 in 2017. So 7 slots. But when we were talking, I had him ahead of a bunch of guys. And the more I bounced it around, he's got to drop a bit.
Yeah, it's right. Just some of that top end stuff just isn't really there with him. But you're getting him a lot of credit for that run. I mean, it exists,
of course.
And there's some great stuff in there, but it's a long run, like where it's not all of it's great.
Cheers.
Yeah. And then obviously his little brief bounce in 94 is awesome, but he's got the whole 93, which is kind of, so I mean, I think top 15 is pretty fucking good for him.
I think it's fair.
All right. My 14, this is your influence, up from 20, is The Undertaker for me.
Nice. Well, look, I have him currently at 8, but for the same reasons we talked about in our most recent episode. So
yeah, I think we're going to buzz through some of this top end. We did talk about it.
We just talked about it. Yeah. It's just to see where they landed. But it's cool he moved him up. That's neat. Bad top attraction of all time, probably. My number 13, is that where we're at? 13, Mick Foley,
Okay.
down 2 slots from 11 in.
I am at
2017.
10 up 2. I think he's, to me, he's like I like him and Jericho kind of similar, and I think he's better than Jericho. I think his higher end stuff like resonates more.
Yeah.
One of the greatest fan connections of all time. I mean, just even like 96 just carries all that stuff on Undertaker. He's probably the workhorse MVP of 96. 97, you get the Dude Love stuff, which is really good. And that's probably his weakest year, and he's still like super over doing all that stuff. 98, heel Dude Love is awesome. You got the Hell in a Cell, you got the stuff with Kane.
98 is huge.
Yeah. Then you got all the stuff with The Rock into 99, which is great. Like just top end. And even his comeback, 04 is awesome. You know, like this, so many good things in there. His commentary roles, run is pretty good. He's just super beloved, super over at all times.
Yep. Sneaky all-time great career.
All right. My 13, again, you help push me on this one. Up 8 from 21. That's Andre the Giant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 9 for me, but again, like
him and Taker are going to be back to back, so I think it's good you have.
I think it makes sense. Yeah, just a special performer.
Yeah.
Again, we just talked about him.
All right. My 12 up 5 from last time. Roddy Piper.
Hey, my 12 also up 8. For he was 20 last time. So yeah, like just absolute fire as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
Like they hated this man. Like, and I don't know if it was the kilt that made them angry or the bagpipes that make everybody angry, but like just everything about him was designed to make you angry. And he was so good at it that they started cheering him despite not really changing anything.
Right. And when he says like Hogan without me, it wouldn't be you. It's true. Like, I mean, I don't know if Hogan rises to that next level without a heat magnet like Piper to push and push and push. And the T stuff is super edgy. Adonis feud is great. You know, he dips a little bit in that 89-90 face run, but then the stuff with Virgil is really good. The Brett match is awesome. I think his commissioner run in 96 is good. His return to WrestleMania 19 is awesome. He's really good at that WrestleMania 25 match, actually. So he's got some good stuff. And I'm watching his WCW 96, and he's actually been awesome in that. I know it doesn't count for this, but he's fantastic there too. So, I mean, 85 to 87 alone would probably have him like top 20, honestly. Everything else on top of that is pretty much a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I considered his post 87 stuff really.
Yeah,
like maybe it's the reason he's not higher. Like,
yeah, possible. All right, who's your 12?
12 is Piper.
Okay, that's right. My 11, we just talked about Daniel Bryan. My 10 is Mick Foley.
Okay, my 11, just a smidge outside the top 10, and this is not done out of spite. Bret the Hitman Hart.
All right. I am at 9. I had him at 9 last time.
Okay, I had him at 14 last time, so I moved him up. I did move him up, but I mean, it's Bret. He's great. The best worker of all time. If it's not Daniel Bryan, it's Bret Hart. Great babyface, great heel. Just an incredible technician, a great storyteller. The only ding I have from him is there's times where he's not as exciting, and that ends up lending itself to sometimes boring matches. But they're few and far between. And as much as I give him, I'm only going to ever say this once. As much as I give him shit on this podcast, I actually really love Bret Hart. I think he's great. Just an all-time performer.
All right. My number 10 was Foley.
This is why I don't fucking say nice things, by the way.
Who's your 10? Who's your 10?
The 10, the guy who deserves to be above Bret. Keep recording, by the way. The guy who deserves to be above Bret Hart, and that's the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
The icon, the main event. I have him at number 8, so I also have him one above Bret Hart. Sorry, Marcus. Yeah. But I mean, Shawn, to me, it's the second chapter for him that really does it. If we both end in that 97 to early 98, I think Bret probably tops him. But I mean, how do you not add on Shawn's 8-year run when he comes back that has a bunch of great stuff?
Yeah. Well, you're just a spiteful, bitter person.
And Bret doesn't have much on the front end before Shawn. They're in there like the same time, you know? And then Shawn has his whole other career. It tells you just how much we value Bret that they're even one apart, given Shawn's entire other back end is all this stuff. And most of it resonates and is really good.
I think I'd make the argument that I think up until 97, it's actually quite close.
I think I have Brett a little bit higher. Well, I don't know.
I think it's. I mean, I don't know.
Sean's got more bullshit in there, but Brett's 96 is sneaky bad. I'm sorry. Like even his comeback, like the Austin match was great, but I just watched the Sid match in your house this time. It was kind of whatever. And don't tell me it's Sid because Sean just had a great match with him the month before, right? Yeah. So, and maybe it's him still working the rust off a little bit, but.
What's the fucking orange? Why does he have orange on his uniform all of a sudden?
He didn't though at that match. I think that's only Survivor Series.
It's only Survivor Series, I know.
All right, so my 9 was Brett, my 8 was Sean. Sean moved back 1 actually.
He moved down 3 for me.
Okay. So who's your? I don't know where. Who's your 9?
My 9 is Andre, moving up 11 spots.
Okay.
And my 8 is Undertaker, moving up 7 spots.
Okay. My 7, who flipped with Sean, is the greatest heel of all time. That's Vince McMahon.
He's my 7 also.
I mean, this was like a contentious point, and other people that don't believe he belongs on this list, but I don't care. Like, he's the greatest heel character of all time. He has a great matches up and down the. I mean, he's got loads of great big time matches. He's part of the biggest storyline of all time with Austin McMahon. Without him, it does not work. Down toward the end, probably too much, but whatever. Like even toward the end, when he show up, would still be compelling at times. With Kevin Owens headbutted him and different stuff like that, like still worked. You know.
You know what's crazy? He has like one really bad match, and it's against Bret Hart.
What a surprise!
It's fucked up the way that works, eh? Mm. And he has an incredible match at WrestleMania 22 with Shawn Michaels.
Nuts.
I don't know. I don't know if that tells us anything about the whole project. It's possible.
And I'm not even counting any of Vince's commentary and all that stuff. I know it's not like everyone's bag, but he is great when he's solo, like in the early 80s. Yeah. I'm a fan of him because I just grew up with him in the 90s, so whatever. But I mean, his run, he'd be in the spot from 98 or 97 to like, if he was done in like 06, if that Shawn match ended his career,
Shawn kills him,
right? That would still be like an elite career, and then everything else on top of it is like kind of whatever. But
even better than Shawn killing him would be God striking him dead at Backlash.
It should just happen now, probably. All right, who's your 7? Oh, Vince. Okay, my 6 is the biggest riser of the top here. I guess he kind of took Cena's spot. He went up from 11 to 6 for me. That's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that's my 6.
Yeah, you definitely helped influence that. I was underrating him and what he brings to the table. Arguably, you can look at this list and say he's the best of all these guys to come. I just don't think he's a bigger star than them. But you could argue he's the best in the ring of all these guys to come ahead of him.
Oh yeah, yeah, and yeah, he's special performer. Always kills it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I when I think of, he's got to be one of those guys that's just you just think of when you think of WWE now, because he's just so entrenched in that and has carried the company for over 10 years now.
And it's crazy that he left for 8 and then all of a sudden he's been back 10 years as like a megastar. Yeah. And his first match back was great and he hasn't stopped.
Nope. He had a little
bump.
bump.
For Triple H.
Oh God, thank God he didn't fight Brett.
All right, number 5. He is up 1 spot from last time. He took Cena's spot. That's The Rock.
Yeah, I got him at 5 also.
Okay.
And he was 5 for me last time also.
Yeah, he's The Rock. Number 4 stays number 4 for me. That's Bruno Sammartino.
Number 4 for me, my friend, down 3 spots, is the Macho Man Randy Savage.
I can't believe you did it.
Well, because I'm honest. I'm honest about the
I'm project. Honest too. Where's Bruno for you? 3?
3. Bruno's 3.
Yeah, Bruno's Bruno. Here's my change at the top. I flipped Austin and Hogan. I had Hogan 2 and Austin 3 last time. I flipped them around. I just like Austin more. I just like watching Austin more. I love Hogan, like especially in the early to mid 80 run there, like 85 to 89. He's great. I think he's diminishing returns a bit after that. He's still super over, but I think Austin is less formulaic for me. I find his brawls to be hotter. I find the promos, the segments to be better. Austin McMahon's like my favorite feud. Austin Hart Foundation's like my favorite feud. So like he's got all that stuff. Him coming back and having that match with Owens, like after all this time off, like adds to the legacy to me. Like that was a great Mania moment and match. He's super over every time he comes out, like no matter what. So to me, he passes Hogan for me. It's close. They're like two A. You can argue they're 1B and 1C, and it's all tight. But
look, I think when you're look, my 2 is Austin, my 1 is Hogan. But I think when you're dealing with those two, it's just going to come down to
Right.
preference.
Yeah.
One built the company, one saved the company, right?
Yeah.
They're both these transcendent stars. You know, like, I mean, Hogan, I would have Austin and Savage ahead of if it's my personal favorite wrestlers, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, everything you said about Austin could just as easily be twisted to support Hogan.
Sure.
The promos, the feuds, the importance, the charisma, the frenzy, the pure frenzy that he would whip a crowd into. And not that Austin couldn't. I think it's a toss-up between the two. But I'm going to lean Hogan as the guy who the whole company is built on, and really the guy who pro wrestling is built on.
Right. All right. So my number one stay is Macho Man. I think he just has the most emotional, intense feuds of anyone. His career arc is like wonderful in the WWF. Like, he starts, he's, you know, abusive to Elizabeth. He's this angry, jealous piece of shit. He comes around and figures it out, but doesn't really change. Like, he just kind of, it's almost a convenient change for him, right, to become world champion. And he's buddy with Hogan, but he becomes jealous like almost immediately of Hogan. That jealousy breaks him. He ends it with Elizabeth. He ends it with Hogan. He snaps. He finds this fucking maniacal new girlfriend that he has this rebound that all his friends are telling him is fucking insane, but he doesn't care. She's great in bed. She's insane, right? Like, all this stuff. He snaps out of that.
She sucks a mean dick.
Right? Well, I mean, that's what it feels like, right? He rebounds off his like high school sweetheart with this fucking crazy chick. And then as soon as the money wagon runs out, she dumps him. He has this heartbreaking loss at WrestleMania, but ends up being this wonderful moment because he reunites with his true love. They get married. He gets dragged back into the war by this fucking maniac. Then he's done with Jake, but hey, lo and behold, in comes Ric Flair. And all of a sudden, he's like saying he slept with his wife. Now he's pissed at him. He has this epic feud with Flair. And then he's just kind of ready to retire, but then in comes Crush, his buddy. It's like a Tommy Gunn situation where he turns on him. So he's going to go to the corral one more time, knock off Crush, and ride off into the sunset. It's just like this wonderful arc storyline. Never came back and sullied it, right? So yeah, he might not have come back to add to it, but he also never came back and had this slowest match at the end where he's like dragging. He never came back and had that. He just has this tight 9-year run that's like perfectly woven and told. He's got some great matches involved. All the emotion to all those storylines is great. And yes, Jenny, his biggest feud is with pussy across the board. So 2 pussies, 3 really. Liz, Savage, Sherry, and then Hogan.
What about George Steele?
Yeah, that's his down part.
He's got a fucking pussy right in the center of his chest. George Steele.
Savage is the greatest.
I think he might be the best professional wrestler of all time.
Great storyteller.
Yes. I don't, again, we talked about this. I don't think he's the best WWF wrestler of all time because I think in the end he gets dinged a little bit. Like I said it, but I'm just going to repeat it. I don't think for me this time, and this is how I felt last time too, but this time I can't put anybody ahead of Hogan, Austin, and Bruno. I just couldn't do it. So I've put him as the best of everybody else who wasn't that number one ultra mega.
Yeah,
that's
fine.
He's the 4th face.
Yeah. All right. So there was a long haul. I hope everyone stayed with us and enjoyed it. By the time this is airing, like, lists are due and in. So hopefully you did it. If not, hopefully you enjoyed this. And maybe if we do another stretch project in 23, you'll be part of it.
Greatest.
There's a lot of change coming to North South. So to stay with us, like, we don't have it all ironed out as we're recording this, but we're going to do some video stuff. We got northsouthconnection.com dropping. No Holds Barred has some changes coming. So, like, just kind of keep an eye on social media. Follow us along. We'll start posting and socializing more stuff as we go.
Look at that motherfucker right over my shoulder. Beautiful Randy Savage and Elizabeth.
Look at him. Number 1. All right. Dookie's been dropped. No Holds Barred in the books. Another great year, Aaron. 2022 is done. We're closing it out. Looking for an awesome 23 at the North South.
See you, jackass. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Tim.
Tim's the best.